Last time you came running when you did
I
that.
know.
What happened?
It's too far away to hear it. Thank you, Max. Yep. We're going to go ahead and get back to order, folks. We left off with the assessor. It's where we are ready to begin. Oh, I guess that's you and John.
Are we ready? Are you ready? Okay, so.
I think we're ready.
Wait, it just disappeared. But one of the things that actually Bob and I was just talking about is on the full-time employees, the assessor did have an employee under personal property auditor for $53,000 in there that has been approved by the commissioners, and it's in this number. So that one is still questionable as to whether that needs to be either kept in here or taken out.
He was requesting that, there's a fund that we had, that it was a firm, did audits on personal property returns. And then if they found that they were under-reporting, the money went into this fund and then we paid them, not a percentage of it, but they would pay a flat amount. He was wanting to have us do it and use, and we have, was it a couple, not a couple million, 400,000, I believe, that we have in cash there. Board of Accounts just told me that we cannot do that. Because we can put it into that fund if it is it must be a contract.
Oh, okay.
So that was his plan, but I think he has requested that position. When I did the math, that position was requested in the general fund request. It was not, he didn't request it out of that fund. We didn't even send him the paperwork for that fund because we didn't know this was going to be requested. But that is something that I think needs to be discussed. If you think that position should be kept, that's going to be a new position in the general fund. But I believe he was not going to replace a couple vacant positions.
That's what I understood as well.
But if you see here, like his request is up from 564 to 577. So he didn't just, it would look like he took the funding away from one, and the one he added is a PAT, so it's a little bit higher pay. So I don't know if we need to talk to Eric about this. I sent him an email, was that just yesterday?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Telling what Board of Accounts and sending him what Board of Accounts said. I never heard anything
I
from
didn't
him
hear a
yesterday.
response either. So maybe we need to reach out, because I don't think Eric. And then maybe come back to this one.
Okay. Okay. We can come back. Next on the list is us. Nothing there, is there?
The only thing that I would mention is the, since we do
Travel
have.
and training?
We have to cut, yeah, is that travel and training something that should be $1,500?
What would it be? I mean, obviously I'm new, but what would that cover for us?
Well, there's
past, I guess.
annual training that the
Yep.
State Board of Accounts has.
Right.
That's not paid out of here. That's paid out of unappropriated. Historically, there's been a few things. Maybe we've had a councilman or two who have gone to the AIC, does a legislative conference. That might be paid out of there. There was some payments made for the Chamber of Commerce trip to DC. I know Dave Williams went on that. There was a couple times that there was, I think that's what that, in 2018,
The 23.
the 2,300. But, you know, $60, that guess, my guess would be for 19, that $60 was probably the registration fee for the Ledge Conference for somebody. Lisa, you've been to that, haven't you? Did you go to that once? I mean, that might be,
Lon and I went to newly elected official
but
training.
not to the AIC, not to the legislative conference? Okay, well, anyway, I don't know. But,
So could we reduce that? Is it, if we're not using it for that total amount?
Yeah, there's probably no reason to keep 1,500 there. Cut it
Bring it down to 500.
500, cut 1,000 out of it. Okay. Commissioners. Kathy, do we have anything drastic there? I don't think we did. Because everything's,
No, I think we're okay. You can see that things that were in EDIT and QCAP are moved back into the general fund, the insurance.
Okay.
yeah,
So that's
the insurance
$465,000.
payments
and legal. Oh, no, not legal. Yeah, legal,
Excuse me?
legal.
and legal, yeah.
Legal, yes, back. So that was it, unless, Kevin, do you remember anything else?
No, I don't.
So all the increases, stuff are moving back.
Stuff was being moved back.
Right, and that was from that, when we
That
had
page.
the discussion on whatever page that
Yeah.
was. Earlier today.
Now, we had 15,000 in dues and subscriptions in 20, yet, has that been somewhere else before? Because we got zeros across the,
Eat it.
Eat it.
but it's there for 20 and no money's been spent against it.
No, it's because it's in Eden.
No, it's in general fund.
Yeah, but the expenditures are in Eden.
Okay, so,
No.
No.
Eat it.
so in other words, you knowingly spent out of EDIT even though you've had budget in general fund?
Because we were told that it wasn't there.
Well, it is. If 15,000 is under the 2020 budget, it's there. Is this common practice for you to budget things in two places?
Depending on where you want to pull it out of.
All right. Okay. So it's coming out of EDIT for next year?
I'd rather take it back out of general fund and take it out of Eden. And leave it in general fund and not spend it out of Eden. Eden's gonna be tight. Very.
15.
Okay, so right now, it's in both, it is in both, budgeted in both places.
Correct. You can decide where to take it out of.
Do you need 30,000 total or 15,000 total? 16. So whatever, yeah.
Leave it in the general fund and take it out of Eat It.
Is that what you want me to
Is
do?
that what I'm
Take it
hearing?
out of Eat It?
Is a consensus?
There-
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm going
Paula,
back.
why are the two numbers in Eat It versus the general fund different?
Because we had an increase in one of them, and I'd have to go back and think which one it was. The one's a little bit more now.
So if we scratch the dues and subscriptions, the 3910 line out of Eat It, we need to leave 16 in the general.
Correct.
Okay.
Going back to page 92, 93, the top stuff that was in the commissioners that we're moving back to general. I just want to make sure, this 1 point, 1.065 million that we're moving back to the general fund for on the commissioners out of CCD and EDIT, cumulative cap.
Probably for the insurance and legal fees.
Because we're only going up 800,000, maybe you went down 200 and something else, I'll have to figure that out. But these things up here, they're not going anywhere, they're not gonna show up anywhere else in the budget, the top, line 93. They would all be right in here, so.
They should be
Okay.
in the general fund requests.
Okay.
Now, the state does give us the mental health, this isn't help that much as far as the real thing, but they certify that to us fairly late, and it is less for mental health than what we had put in the budget, so I can lower that by 27,421. No.
Anything else on the commissioners that you had notes of? No? Okay.
Do you want to go to EDIT and finish that up, or do you want to continue just to move on to human HR? EDIT, QCAP for commissioners?
Do we want to,
Do we want to do that now?
yeah, we could do that now. Let's go ahead and move over there. That'd be fine. So that is on, well, EDIT's on page 34.
And those are the pieces of paper that you have at your desk.
Yeah, this whole stack.
Just one thing from the commissioners, if you want to address or call out, you talked to Kevin and I about this 1.2 million that we're going to be getting from culverts and drain, and then paying that back next year. We're loaning us this money to finish the project at the fairgrounds, the Y.
Zach's sitting on for main drainage projects, was he already talked to a little bit at the beginning? It's kind of a shock. Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, it's a matter, he's sitting on 4.1 to do major drainage projects, we're gonna use 1.2 of it, that way we can definitely get the Y project done next year, and the following year, we can use 1.2 back. Because a lot of his projects fluctuate, they get paid out of TIF funds,
question mark, and we had talked about this in our meeting, about the election equipment, the $250,000. And there was a question whether we were getting that, we were going to be able to get a grant for that money, or is that our obligation, the $250,000?
So Julie is looking at buying the election equipment with the grant next year, but then she's also going to need money for new poll books.
Okay, so this is then the $250,000 poll book.
She was hoping to get a grant for that as well, so she
Right.
wasn't sure that we had any money.
Yeah, she's optimistic,
Okay.
because it's like 250 plus 88 or something like that for the poll books, but she doesn't know yet.
Okay.
So I don't think she thinks that you've allocated $250 for the election equipment when we talked to her. She's not here, is she? She knows. She knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's probably contingent on the fact that she doesn't know yet whether they're gonna get the
Get 'em.
grant.
Okay.
And
100.
I thought there was 100,000 in it. As of right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a question mark, because we had talked,
Yeah.
we did, when we met with, Kevin and I met with the commissioners, that was a big question mark. We didn't have the answer yet, so I didn't know if anybody had gotten that answer.
Well, we also pursued the notion of annually putting something in for the day that these are gonna have to be replaced. Obviously, 250 would be excessive, it would seem, but at least sticking some aside year to year as a residual. Right. What, all I'm saying
The
is,
machines.
whenever the next time comes around, that we've got money sitting there.
She's proposing that you cut that by 150,000 and keep $100,000 there.
And that's probably for the poll books.
For whatever, yeah, because
But-
she just doesn't know yet.
If we've already got the 100 in the bank, we could just take it to zero.
What line are we on here?
Yeah, which line are we on?
6,100.
Oh, down there.
Okay. To lower that to what?
To 100. To lower it to 100,000.
Where I have the $100,000 transfer. Hang on. Do what?
No matter what, I would not cut it to zero, because there's going to be, there's good possibility there's some other costs that may come up for some other needs. And like I said, I'm trying to get a grant in as much as possible from a grant. And if we don't get it for these full books, we can't buy it in 22, but there may be other things. What if I lower it, I think somewhere to zero? What if we put 25,000? Okay, keep in mind, you already have 100,000 sitting in the pot that was from last year, from this year, from 2020.
You still have that $100,000 free transfer.
Is that enough?
Is that enough?
100,000, I'm okay with 100,000.
Could you go to the microphone? We're not going to get any of this.
For next year, for 2021.
Paul, could you go to the microphone so we can hear it?
Let's leave it there for now, and we'll revisit it with her when she gets all the information in front of her. Sounds like we could take it to zero.
So leave 100,000 for now, and then see if we can go
Yeah.
zero.
Okay.
I was told to go to 100,000. What's the other money for?
Yeah, what's the other money?
It's on your sheet.
Which one?
You've got your self-insurance funds that you have to replenish every year. You have your inmate medical, sheriff's, public officials, commissioners, you have your hazard warning sirens.
Could we ask people to go to the microphone if you're going to talk? 'Cause we're not going to pick anything up for our tape to do the minutes.
Yeah,
or your internal transfers, if you look at the bottom of page 1, that's where you had your $250,000 for your election equipment. Then you have your self-insurance fund for public officials, it's $25,000. Your self-insurance fund for commissioners, self-insurance fund for sheriff, inmate medical, and then you have the $40,000 every year that you put into your hazard warning sirens, and then you have the $25,000 a year that you're putting away for law enforcement gun range.
So that 200 has to stay.
For your insurance, it does.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paula. Need anything else? I'll just-
So 300, what we're leaving there.
And so our question of Julie is, with the 100 that's already in there for election equipment and other cost, will that cover her? If it does not, then we need to know what above 100 is, and we would add that number to the 300.
Okay. Okay.
I think I heard her say at the end of that conversation, she may know on the grant like any time.
She's hoping within
So
a week.
between now and September, when we need to approve this, we can know this number and be locked in better. Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to go through cum cap, commissioners, while we're here?
Can we, before we leave, Edith?
Yes.
I want to make sure the commissioners know what they need to do, or in Zach, for the money, for that 1.2 million, we need for you to do a reduction in appropriation for 1.2 million, and the commissioners to do an additional of 1.2 million in 2020. And then the commissioners can encumber that over if you're not all going to spend it, but, because we're not doing anything for 21, so, because that's 20 appropriation, so it would be normally something you just wouldn't encumber, but at this point, I think it'd be better if you did a $1.2 million reduction, and we could get you the form. Yeah, we want to do that this year, or else we got to put 1.2 million in the budget for 21, and we don't want to really do that. There's no need to do that. So,
I'm going to revert. I think I misstated. If I can flip back to Julie's situation, that 300 includes 100 earmarked for her.
Yes.
Right.
There's already 100 in the fund for her. That would be a second 100. So the number, if she needs something more than 100 that we've already banked in this year's budget for her, it would be added to 200, not 300. We set aside 100 in this year's budget. It's sitting there. She may have 88 for the poll book. She may have other expenses. If it, let's say she says, whatever she thinks she's going to need, if it's less than 100, we've already taken care of her. We don't need to budget anything for 21, and so that number would become 200 for those other line items that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she does need more than 100, we would add it to 200. Yeah. Yeah, I said 300, so I want to make sure I corrected myself.
Okay. Cum caps on page 40.
Couple of things. The sheriff's department, in speaking with Kevin and I, $56,655, and some of the items are marked in red for his department have been taken out because he's going to buy those with commissary funds. So that was a good reduction there.
can you go through the lines so I can get those in the?
Okay, so the jail surveillance desk, 25,000.
What's the number?
2140.
Okay, was how much reduction?
25,000.
Okay.
Let's see here. I don't have the numbers, so I'm gonna have to look on this.
Because I think the numbers are on this side.
I know, but on this sheet,
okay,
exactly,
okay.
for the sheriff, let's see, 4530. with the masks, gas masks, and that was 4,500.
Oh, thank you.
You have it there, okay, let's look at the next one, shooter ballistic, is that on the list? Yes, 4530, 5,400. Let's see, the saw, which is 4530 for 609,
$609.
yes. 4530 imaging unit for 3,600. Let's see, uniforms, 4530 for 224.
4,224, 4,000. Okay.
Let's see here, where's the speed? Let's see. We're 4530 for a total of 9472, which is the speed detection. And 38, where's the
9472.
3850 is the van is 4530.
The van's what number?
Is 4530, and that's 3,800. 3,850, excuse me. So that totals 5665. The other discussion that we had, seeing that, Cume Cap's really tight, we need to be looking at decreasing the budget. The police vehicles, which is line 4520, $410,000, 13 requested. The sheriff had requested 20 vehicles. The commissioners knocked it down to 13. In reality, the sheriff's department could use 25 vehicles, realizing that many vehicles are greater than 125,000 miles. We just received word that we are going to be getting an additional discount on the vehicles of $700 apiece. So looking at police vehicles with 13 at $410,000, I would propose that we would take this out of Cume Cap and put it into lit. Public safety dollars. Bob, there was a.
410?
How much? We had $600,000,
Yeah.
$700,000 in public safety still.
This was
budgeted.
410,000
Yes,
even?
410.
Yeah, 410.
269, but then that's not including that $700 discount, correct?
296.
296, okay.
Yeah.
Right, that was an added win.
Well, you've got all of your vehicles all together, the way it's set up in your budget, so. It's right there with it. See emergency lights right above it?
So that's separate from the 410.
Yeah, because it's paid to a different vendor. You have $440,000 in sheriff's vehicles.
And that would take some pressure off of Cume Cap.
How close does that get us on Cume Cap, Bob?
I think that takes us over the top.
That makes it a
So
positive,
it gets
right?
us back to where we need to be.
That could be approved, I believe. Let me look at that. No, that's not right. We still have 101,000 to go.
So we still need to cut another 100,000.
That would be advisable, or else we can lower the operating balance. That-
What was that, Dave?
What line was that on, Dave? Do you remember?
Could somebody come to the microphone so we can get it on tape,
It's on the
or
first
else we're
page.
gonna be lost?
4330, the jail locks, the $45,000. In our discussion, we were looking at potentially training someone to help do those locks, and that we could decrease that cost, and I don't know if we've got an additional number for that.
Now, if you take the jail locks out, and if you take out the parks truck for 29,000, and if you move the sheriff's vehicles and lights to lit, you're gonna be really close.
Can you give me those numbers so we can do it?
The extra jail locks for 1138, 1110, 4330,
Okay, was how much?
45,576.
45,576, okay. Okay, thank you.
And if you remove the sheriff's vehicles
Okay, I got the sheriff vehicle one.
and the emergency lights,
And
What number is
Emergency
is
that?
that in that, what
It's
number?
right above the
it's
vehicles.
the 39,000. It's 1138, 1110, 4520. It'd be another 39,000.
Okay,
Then if you take out the parks mid-sized four-wheel drive extended cab pickup truck, that would be an additional 29,000.
Are we needing to?
so you're down to zero there then?
Yep.
Okay, okay, make sure I'm right there.
Are you proposing that the locks for 45,000 go to lit, or as we talked about, having someone trained to do the locks, and that we would not have to incur this big of an expense?
It's pretty difficult to do those locks. You're gonna address that, Sheriff?
Okay.
Yeah, I have a gun, so,
I got a bunch.
oh, okay, I'm outnumbered then.
What we're trying to do with the 45,000 is we have a box of lock parts that really nobody knows how to fix. So we're trying to send them to a school which keeps getting canceled. So what's happened is Tony Dildine's agreed to come down and show them how to work on these locks. But in talking with Vince, it's literally a box of just pieces.
Yeah.
So he was wanting to at least get a few, and that's where the 45,000 came from, so that you can have right-handed locks and left-handed locks, just based on which way the cell door faces. So there's a need there, but we're doing what we can to try to get the guys trained on how to fix them.
I guess Kathy's question is, if we can get it resolved this year, or we're gonna have to go through this again? Buy more locks, or we're gonna really find something.
Well, our
to work
goal
on.
is to get them trained, so will you never have to buy a jail lock?
It's difficult.
But if we can get these guys trained on how to work on these things and fix them, hopefully that goes down.
What if we jobbed it out to someone locally, a locksmith?
I don't know if you'd save any money. I really don't have any idea. I think it might be smart, but in the end, I don't think you'd save any money on it. Especially when we got guys that are extremely knowledgeable on that. Tony Dildine knows how to fix them.
Yeah.
And if he can train the guys that are there, they got a pretty good idea. But I think we'd be money ahead in the long run.
Right. I think you're right.
So then, Bob, then the locks to lit as well, did you do that?
That needs to go to lit. And
I was
then-
gonna say, Paula said go ahead and add. No, I'm kidding.
The other thing, and I don't know, Bob, if you got this one.
What was the number
Oh,
on the,
sorry.
what was the number in Cume Cap, the last part of the number?
4330,
Okay.
and it was 45,576.
Sheriff, will we rekeying the locks, or can we move the locks into another area, another building, and move those around? That way,
Ooh, I don't know. I wouldn't think you would want a cell door lock on somebody else's lock. I mean, it's pretty.
well, I don't make myself clear or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if Tracy could answer. I don't think you can't rekey them. It's a.
No, these are,
I've seen it. You're trying to rekey the lock?
No. You said something about rekeying them and putting them somewhere else. I don't think you can do that.
They're pretty sophisticated locks.
And as the sheriff talked about, they were supposed to go to a school, I think
Yeah,
it
it's
was
supposed to be in
first
California and
quarter.
it got canceled. Now they're trying to do it again in October, November. And we're gonna send them, as soon as that thing opens up and we can get them out there, we're sending them. Unfortunately, it's California, but it's COVID, and it'll be a lot less than $45,000 when it's all said and done to get them trained, housing, feed them. They do eat a lot, so.
These are not, keep in mind, these are not builder's locks like
No,
you
no.
would see on our doors here. These are heavy-duty detention-grade locks made by Federal Mogul. Some are manual, that you're actually turning the way to lock, and some are mechanical. So it's, and they're all keyed special, so you can't swap locks.
I think there's one more cut, now, Bob, I don't know if you have this one, the carry home HVAC contingency, and that's 4330.
And let me explain that, because your sheet is a little wrong. They originally had asked for 20,000, and the commissioners had already cut it by 10,000. Council went ahead and cut it an additional 5,000. So that's why, so your side warrant says it was cut 10,000, that's because that's what commissioners had cut, but then council cut it another 5,000. So the 5,000 is the correct number.
Yeah, they were anticipating problems or something, or trying to guess.
Yeah, she tries to keep it in there every year because she has no idea when it's going to actually go bad, but she understands that every year they keep trying to Band-Aid them.
We can always come back.
And she has multiple units.
Do I have this right? Was that 45,576 to come out of 4330? Okay. And is there anything else comes out of there? Is that what the carry home? Is that was,
Carry home contingency, it should be $5,000.
Yeah, the only thing that should
And-
be left in that now is if you take those jail locks out is the 5,000 for carry home.
so I should I'm taking another 10,000 out.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
So where does that put us, Bob?
Well, we're over the hump now.
We're over the hump now?
Yes. Last time I looked, it was a negative number, and that's gonna be more negative. Yeah, I got minus 22, so we're okay.
So we're good? Okay.
So everything else is good?
We skipped out of Eat It before I was done there. Whenever we're done
Can we-
with CUME
All right.
if we're done with CUME Cap, can we go back?
Yeah, we're done with
Are
Cume
you done
Cap.
with Cume Cap? So you've got everything else in there? Yeah. We drug her over.
So on the Eat It.
So back to page 34, right?
Yeah, whatever page, I'm not quite sure what page it's on there.
Yeah, 34.
So it looks like for 2020, we did 250 for ADA, but it was a line item in Eat It. Here it says source ADA/title. I'm not sure. Can you help us understand that, please?
What are you talking about?
On the,
Oh, Title VI. That's what Title VI. It's just cut off.
but it's funded out of Eat It?
Yes, you've always had your ADA budget because you're supposed to be
Right.
putting so much aside.
Yeah.
But we've always had it out of it. The only thing we did different this year is Bob and I separated it out so you would see exactly what you spent out of it.
So,
Before, it was always just housed in your residential account. It was just sitting there. And then we would have to go back through and transfer it here or where, or whatever.
Right.
Now, we actually went through and we just separated it out.
so we had one line item, I'm looking in the 2020 budget, said ADA, all buildings, locations, equipment, programs, and services, 250,000.
Yeah, that's what we've done every year. It's just so you have it set aside in case something comes up. And like when we did the 629 parking lot, we already have that money set aside so you can go do it as the projects come
But
about.
this is coming from, the source is Eat It.
And it always has been.
Okay, I was confused by the ADA Title VI designation there.
Jury parking lot or down there at 629?
When we redid it at 629 at the health department.
But then the second question I have is, I was encouraged because it looked like we had, no longer were paying the consultant on the other professional services here, but there is a 10,000 consultants.
In case the only other thing is if you actually have to draw up plans for something and it requires an architect or an engineer, then that's what that would be used
But
for.
we're out of the business of paying the one guy
Yes, sir.
just for his retainer or whatever.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
congratulations. That's great.
Anything else?
Good? Okay. Okay. What do you want to know about election equipment?
So thanks for coming back. What we were saying, trying to say on the phone, in 2020, we put 100,000, designated 100,000 for election equipment.
And are you talking about transferring money into the election fund? Not spending, but to
Just,
transfer over?
we put it in the bank for elections, okay? So now we've got 250,000 in equipment that we're hoping a grant pays for, but we don't yet know. We've got, is it 80-some thousand for e-poll books in addition to that?
No, so we've requested about $1.8 million for election machines and e-poll books.
Okay,
Now, that's separate. The e-poll books is probably about, I think, 170,000 is the rough estimate, 170,000.
okay,
So we don't know if we're going to get that grant or not.
okay.
It is something we will need in '22. And so what I was trying to say on the phone was, that can be a purchase made in '22, but if you're talking about transferring money so that the money is available for that purchase, that's where, I don't know yet, but there's a good possibility I'm going to know before you finalize the budget.
Right.
And, I mean, the minute that I find out if this is going to go through for the e-poll, I'm pretty certain that the machines are. The actual voting machines will get a grant. The e-poll book is what's the iffy part. So $170,000, I think right now we should keep that until I find out for sure. And if you already have 100,000 in there, now we're looking for just 70.
Okay, that's where the 80 was coming into my mind, that would have been the balance of what we had already set aside. So since we will know, can we leave it at 300 there, which would account for the e-poll books? And if we've got the money, we may as well get them in and get them going rather than wait till 22. So we've got 100, we'll leave 100 in there, but if you find out in the meantime you get a grant for the e-poll books, then we'll take that much out.
Well, I wouldn't take the whole thing out, because the other thing we're going to face in '22 is mail-in ballots. Now, we don't know what that's going to look like today. We might need like a high-speed scanner, so still something should be.
But if 100 would cover those kinds of things, that still wouldn't have been touched.
I thought, I understood you to say you would transfer the 100,000 completely out if we found money to pay. So leaving the fund to zero, so that's no.
I meant the 21 budget, we would back out the 100 in the 21 budget, but we'd leave the 100 from the 20 budget.
Okay.
Cool. So just let us know as soon as you know about the e-poll book grant.
I will.
And the other one.
I will.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So where are we, Bob, on Eat It, as far as?
Eat It is actually one that the state does not, there's not property tax with it, so that's not one that they're concerned with. And we do have, for Eat It, there is a large cash balance of, we had $16 million in there. This one's not any issue as far as anything we have to cut.
Okay.
Our budget's only $9 million, we got $16 million in cash.
Okay.
And we're okay with
QMCAP
we
appears
got
to be fine now.
To be okay.
Okay.
What, 22+ thousand in
Yeah, there's,
the
yeah.
black?
Yeah.
Yep.
What did that do to our lit money moving vehicles and light bars and locks?
Yeah, what did that take us to a total?
Right now, I'm at
3.4.
3.4 million.
Out of 3.6.
Can you scroll
Up.
down, Bob, so we can see all the lines that are now part of that?
Because I think
Well,
all,
no.
oh, what?
Just go to that bottom part again, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Just that bottom section. Okay, right there. Okay, now back up.
And I think most of the changes I made were in
Yeah.
whoops, that's too far, into the sheriff section. So I added that line, those are, this one, that's the cars, and this is whatever the
With the lights
And
and all
where
that.
lights and
lights-
box, yeah.
The light bar was, is that included in there as well? I don't see
The-
the lights.
What number was that, would that be?
1138, 1110, 4520 should now be at 0.
Well, that one have 0, but in 1170, it would have the same ending, just the last 4 digits.
4520.
45, I got 410, 296.
Yeah.
39,000 and
Yeah.
change, or
30.
39,000 even?
Even.
Yeah.
And then take out you have to take out the 29,000 for Parks truck. You just cut it.
Well, that was cut out of,
I'm in public
cap.
safety.
right. We're in public safety now. We're just trying to make sure we've got everything in that we're moving.
And the cars in reality will be about $9,000 less because of that $700 that we just found out for the 13 vehicles is 9,100.
So now I'm within like 130,000 max.
So that nets us where on vehicles for the sheriff? Are we funding vehicles for the sheriff anywhere else or just here?
Just here.
there.
Just here.
And then knowing that this is a big commitment to get caught up, if you will, what's the projected annual cost or number of vehicles for the next few years?
Right now, an email message that I received from the sheriff asking that question is that 13 cars were requested, 20 cars were requested, 13 were granted, but in looking at the overall fleet, a more realistic number is they would need 23 to be current right now. And we're funding 13. Am I correct, Sheriff?
Yeah, but I think your question is,
Right.
I'm trying to, want to understand what Lit's going to get hit
20.3.
for if we set up this policy, or at least set up the possibility that we're going to start paying for your cars out of Lit. What's the hit going to be in the years ahead?
because we have all that documented.
That's all I'm just asking what that answer is.
It's probably, I'll get it. It's probably,
But this is, the 449 is 13?
Yes. 13.
Okay.
So what's the total cost of the cars?
$450,000. 449.
So,
With
well, but
cars
that's
and
got
light
that 39,000, whatever.
Excuse me?
That's got the 39,000
Right,
included in
but
it.
the light bars are needed for the car,
Okay.
so I mean, the total package of the car. And realizing that that doesn't get us caught up for this year. If this year we were gonna get caught up, we would in reality need 23 cars.
Okay.
And we're funding 13 because there's another 10 cars that are needed, because when you look at the fleet of 125,000 miles or more.
So,
How long does those cars last at 125,000? Roland?
I don't know. I
as I
mean,
said,
it'll
he's got a
depend-
bunch
I mean,
over.
I'm just curious how often we got to purge the system to get these cars.
So strategically, what the commissioners are, whereas we funded these in cum cap mainly before? Always. So we're anticipating cum cap is going to be tight for the years ahead if we're saying we're just making this big shift to sheriff vehicles out of lit public safety. We're not anticipating cum caps coming back. I'm sorry, Tom, I can't.
Yeah.
Because cum cap is property tax, it's not gonna.
Right.
It's not gonna increase significantly, but we would expect EDIT to take a significant hit next year with income tax, so. So am I answering your question?
I'm trying to get at just what the downstream effects of this is going to be, we got the money there now, there's no doubt we can handle that. But if we move this over and get in the habit of assuming all the sheriff vehicles are coming out of lit, is it gonna be sustainable there? And basically, it sounds like because we got behind on purchasing vehicles at the sheriff department, which is what I'm hearing you say, cum cap would have been hit harder earlier had we been keeping up in the first place.
So something you may want to consider is using whatever lit you have left over for '21 to purchase cars, because next year, hopefully, we're going to be needing, we're going to have programming space in place in which we're going to hopefully put some programming dollars into the lit. So it'd be better to get ahead on cars now than next year.
But we'll have the balance in there.
You'll have the balance as
Yes.
reserves, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Any discounts for buying all those cars now instead of spreading them out?
That's the state price, right? I'm assuming that's the state.
Just the price?
Yeah.
How big a fleet we got? Cars?
It's like 167, is that what you said?
Oh, I didn't say a number.
Oh, somebody did.
I don't have a number.
160 vehicles?
I want to say it's around 100, 110.
110,
That's
okay.
everything, little pickup trucks.
All right.
To transport vehicles, there's 5 of those, to the.
Right.
But you had said we'd gotten way behind on replacements.
Correct. That's why we're at the point right
Right.
now where really 23 is needed, and we're funding 13.
What's the question?
Just deputy cars.
Deputy cars is 23.
Where, and, some of the vehicles that they do need are transport vehicles as well. I don't know how many transport vehicles are needed out of that 23.
We'll have to look at the mileage on the statistics. There's 5 transport vehicles. We just incorporated a new minivan. So that's brand new. That's okay. We have 4 other transport vehicles that are pickup trucks, and we need to phase those out. They're getting high mileage, close to 90, 100,000. And the gas consumption on a pickup truck for transport's not good.
And the van, the minivan, the transport van was purchased out of commissary money.
That's correct.
Yes.
So of that 23, not all of them are just deputy cars, correct?
No, it's several transport vehicles which are nearing or at 100,000 miles.
Is it 100 or 125,000?
It's a broad spectrum of miles.
Well, I heard the cutoff that you're shooting for is 125.
Yeah, and we base, or at least I do when I talk to our department mechanic, I say, when we find a good vehicle, say we get a new vehicle in, and we'll issue it to an officer, and I'll talk to the mechanic, say, can we take that existing car that we're gonna pull out and issue a new one and put it in as a pool car? And he'll say yes or no. So, okay, let's pull one of the more unreliable pool cars out to get ready to trade it, and pull that vehicle that's, the officer's getting a new one, put it into the pool fleet. Those are typically, the pool fleets, anywhere from 90,000 to 125 right now.
Okay, thank you. So if the request is for the 13 vehicles and we can make that work here, that's what you guys can live with? Bob's back in here now, by the way, in case you want him to answer that question. Can you live with the 13 that's been brought for us here?
Go to the mic.
Living with the 13 that we asked for.
Right.
And so what'll happen is, we'll just keep going backwards. We realistically need 23 and get it money's tight. So what I have Captain Rick's looking at is, you were asking for numbers, and I was explaining to him, if we can get to the point where we can say, look, if we just buy 5 new cars every year, and it's just 5, then we're not in this point where we're always playing catch up. So if we do 13, that's 7 less, plus the numbers that we would need for 2022 we're gonna constantly be chasing it. So he's figuring it out. I don't know what that number is. I told him to look at any vehicle right now that has between 70 and 75,000 miles on it, because you assume those folks are going to put 30 to 35,000 miles on their car a year. Those vehicles will be over 100,000 miles in 2022.
Right.
And the other part of it is, and that's a discussion for another day. We have a lot of vehicles that aren't police vehicles, the regular fleet utility trucks. We're trying to get those off the road and get police-rated vehicles in there.
Yeah, I didn't get one of those.
So I should have an answer for you soon.
But what did we buy, what are we buying this year? How many?
It was,
It was 23.
Then
no, what did we purchase in 2020? Cars, did we, was it, oh, I thought it was less than that.
What was that we bought this year?
I can tell you.
I was looking it up.
7.
So we've been buying single digits for the last 2 or 3 years?
Well, no, that changed prior to 2019. We were buying 9 or 10, and then all of a sudden we got a 7.
And then all of a sudden we got
We
what?
got a 7.
That was in 19. We were awarded 7 vehicles.
You requested probably and got 7?
I can't remember what we requested, but it was.
I'll tell you.
You know what? That would have been under the former.
Yes.
It was
It would
11.
have
It was
been.
under Sheriff Richard. It was 11, cut to 7, and we just keep cutting. They gave John a headache.
No, your budget was for 11.
Pardon?
You
Got
asked for
needles.
15, we gave you
Got
11.
needles in mine.
Last year?
For 2020.
For 2020, yes.
2019.
So there's a cut of 4. There's 4 from the previous year. Right there, you're in the hole of 8. We asked for 20, we get 13.7. Now we're in a hole of 15. It just keeps snowballing.
That's why I was asking about the future years.
That's what we're trying
Did you
to
have
figure
this
out for you.
conversation with the commissioners before they came with this budget?
We've had those conversations with
Yeah.
them, yes, and we're all, as you know, we're all trying to work together. I'm trying to get you a number. I know, at the department I was at before, they got to a point where they just knew every year they were buying 3 vehicles. 3 vehicles, 3 vehicles, 3 vehicles. That's just what they did. It would be nice if we were able to get to that point. If LIT allows us to do that, it would be a lot easier on everybody in the future. And I believe vehicles are part of the equipment that falls under what you can spend.
And what's our bottom line? We've only got about 110 headroom yet, right?
Right. Yeah. Just a little over 100.
Realizing that the $184,000 is in there for the $1,000 for members of the sheriff's department as well.
He bailed.
Left you hanging.
Put it in vehicles.
But if you kind of got caught up, then from Rollins' point, in the future, if you had
Yeah, if we
12 a year, that would be,
or less. I mean,
if you had 10 a year, then,
yeah. And it's,
so it's not like it may be a hit on lit this year, but it's not going to be a hit
But it
every
wouldn't
year.
be
that's our-
an
that's our goal.
ongoing.
We don't want to keep buying them, and that's our goal, is to get caught up to when we can just say, hey,
So then it would be a more manageable.
more manageable. And I
Rate
told
per
Captain
year.
Ricks, I said, don't include,
So, yeah, so
don't
these are
include
gonna
mine,
be gone- these will
obviously.
be-
Don't include
these 14
transport.
right here
Transport's
are
something you
gonna
can
be
purchase out
by
of
in
commissary.
6
So we've been
months.
trying to do that
Or
instead of
soon,
buying
at 125.
full-size Ford
Yeah.
F-150s for a gazillion dollars. We're buying
No, I didn't
Dodge
get this.
minivans
No, I didn't
that
get that. This is
are more manageable, they get better gas mileage, they're all-wheel drive.
Yeah, yeah. that'd be
What do they
good.
do if after they
Average car
trade it in,
is
it just falls out as the whole deal?
$40,000
Or do they
You can trade them in and basically build up in-store credit.
Divided by 30.
and go in as part of the purchase?
31,000.
Yeah, and then you could go in and purchase like
But
detective
then
vehicles and
it'll
things like that.
so 30,
So we're not getting a separate money from trade-ins. You're going out
Hey,
and
you're
buying
kind
new
of building
vehicles?
it up for the future.
Huh?
You're kind of building it up for the future. You take
Kathy?
9 vehicles and trade
I
them in.
was just doing real
You got a
rough.
pot there where
If
you
we
can go after another vehicle.
Where's that pot held at?
We'll need to talk
Locally, it
during
was at
break.
Razor
Okay.
Ford. Right now, we're going through, the best deal was
Okay.
through a dealership out of Kokomo.
Okay.
Oh. Twin
Yeah,
City?
yeah.
Pardon?
Twin City or the,
Yeah, it's the same group.
same group, yeah,
Same,
okay.
it's the ones that own the same,
So are they holding that pot?
Right now, over there.
yes.
They are.
I don't know what it's up to. I don't know what it is, but our goal was to use that to purchase
I wouldn't let Razor
detective
hold it.
vehicles, because we have some of those that are up there in mileage too.
So is there a suggestion
Wouldn't let Razor.
beyond the 13?
Well, Can you purchase vehicles yet this year, or is that like a one-shot deal?
Okay,
You
I'm sorry.
have to get them at a certain time? I mean, because we've got $4 million sitting there, do an additional appropriation this year. Is that possible, or you can still order them and purchase them in 2020?
And that's what we found out yesterday, they're $700 less per vehicle than what they were.
Affected the production of vehicles, so some of the new ones that we had budgeted for 2020 were slow coming in, we're just waiting for them to be built. So, I think we can still order them.
And right now, we have the Durango, and the way we've been doing things is having guys go test drive these vehicles. For example, the Ford Explorer, it's a great vehicle, there's absolutely nothing in it. It's a lot more expensive, there aren't all the safety features that are with the Durango, so we're saving a lot more money by going with the Durango, and everybody picked it.
Well, and I just gotta, when we talk about mileage on the vehicles, right now, 5 vehicles have over 120,000 miles, 9 have over 110,000 miles, 5 have over 100,000 miles. So that's 19 cars that are really close to that 125. But then there's 11 vehicles that have 90,000 miles, and then 3 that have 80,000. So we're gonna be sitting here next year faced with the same dilemma, looking at a larger number of vehicles.
And those cars, I mean, if you're not familiar with a police car, it's not, I mean, our personal vehicle is a Honda Odyssey van. You can drive that thing forever. A police car with 120,000 miles on it is not your Honda Odyssey van. It's been ran. It's through all kinds of weather. It doesn't take a day off.
I got 2 of them. You can have them out there.
But we haven't heard the vehicle problem to this extent till now. This isn't this year's problem. So
Correct, and I can't speak for the past. All I can tell you is we got this together, and we had it formulated last year when Chief Deputy Ruley was doing it, and just trying to let you know in the future. So, like today, you threw me the curveball question. I just got off the phone.
Didn't mean to.
No, you didn't,
All
but
right.
it's a great question. And then we have to figure out a way to get there. But it's an absolute great question.
We're also still getting used to this money, and we don't want to blow it. I'd rather see us take a step, but not get you all the way there in 1 year. I mean, everybody's got to deal with the realities. I'd rather get us something like 16, 17 vehicles, 18, whatever you said. What was the total of the 3 over 100,000?
5, right?
5. So if we funded 13, if we did an additional 7, let's say 7, because if we're getting $700 off right now, which is, that would save $2,100 right there, but 7 times an average of what, $35,000, $40,000 per vehicle with the light package?
31 or 32.
32, and then you have to put the lights on them, so say 35. So what's 35,000 times 7?
245,000.
So take $245,000 and get up to 20 vehicles, realizing we really need 23, and then maybe next year we do.
But where's the 23 come from? You said there were so many vehicles that had there was 5 that had over 120, you rattled off a list there.
I'm going off the email. The sheriff said that there were 23 was more likely the realistic thing if they could get this year than to help moving forward.
Because we'll have, once we have the budget, the way I'm looking at it is we won't get this money till January. We're trying to predict what those cars will have on them in January. And you just assume guys will put 30 to 35,000 miles. A newer officer, which we have several now, they drive their car more than the guy with 10 years on. Typically, it seems like between 7 to 10 years, guys start parking them a little bit more. They aren't driving them as much, and especially you start hitting the 20-year mark. If you're not driving an unmarked car, the thing sits at home a lot. So
Well, if we go 20, there won't be money in there for the $1,000. I'm not sure we had that in our books anyway. We haven't
Kathy.
talked about that yet, but just.
Look at your phone.
We wouldn't do much catch-up, we're gonna have to use 20 money, it seems like to me.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to use some of our cash that,
We've only appropriated, what, about 88,000 from the 2020
180 is the 1,000.
lit?
Yeah, that was for bomb.
Yeah, for the bomb, safety equipment. Is there anything holding us back?
makes sense.
To doing it in the next couple of months, appropriating out of that
but you don't
fund?
get the $700 discount if you buy them this year, is that, do I understand that right?
We'd have to ask Captain Ricks.
Okay.
I don't know if that's right now, 2020, or if that
It
goes into.
seems like if you wanna get caught up, you're gonna have to do it out of the 20 money and not in the 21
I'm sure if
budget.
you were buying a lot of vehicles and you got a whole, I think you'd probably get the discount.
Who does the
If
wheeling
we,
deal?
if we didn't do the 184 plus what the balance is,
It's, yeah, roughly 132.
Well, the 184 has got some social security with it and some of it has some
But
perks, so
even
it's gonna
just
be,
figuring
it's gonna be
that
over
number
200,000
alone,
for
Bob,
the 184.
okay.
Plus
So
the
say-
one, that number plus the 132, you divide that by the 34.5 round figure kind of number for each vehicle, that would give us another 9 vehicles on top of the 13 we've already got kind of tagged. That would at least get us a long way toward getting us caught up to, I mean, is that
Right.
potentially a route that we could potentially look at going? That's what I was thinking. I mean, I
Where's
know
this,
that,
you said this funny money is held at Razor, or is this
No,
some
I'd have to ask the name of
agreement?
this dealership. It's
Because
Bunt.
there's some car dealers in town that are about
Button
ready,
over
there's some car
Kokomo.
dealers in town
Yeah,
that are ready to
Kokomo.
belly up.
Pardon?
There's some car dealers in town about ready to belly up.
Yes,
So I'd
and
get
what
my
happened
money.
before is we wanted to go local, and what happened was they were tagging on a lot extra money for themselves. And we found when we shopped around, we went to Kokomo and they weren't at, the same dealership wasn't adding the extra, whatever, several hundred to $1,500 a car. At least, so it equaled, when we were buying that many cars, it almost equaled another vehicle
Right.
that was going in somebody's pocket.
Yeah.
So we were just trying to save money.
Who's a negotiator? You fellas are?
Yeah, we kind of do it as a group,
Okay.
and then in the end, I either say yes or no.
Carry a gun when you go in there?
Several.
So you said there's about 100, 110 vehicles, but how many of those are patrol? The patrol cars are the ones that rack up the miles faster, right?
40 to 50 of them, 50, yeah, 50, about 50,
I mean,
57.
at 35,000 a year for those cars, is that what you were talking
Usually,
about?
yes.
That's
Pretty cheap.
about every 4 year, maybe a little bit less. So if there's 40 or 50 of those, that's every 4 years, that would be 12 and a half a year,
Yes,
right? Does that make sense?
yes.
Plus these auxiliary vehicles, of which there may be 50 or 60.
Yeah, so you have detective vehicles in there too, but they're not putting the mileage on that the others are. And you have transport in there as well, and you have the administration vehicles. What you can do, this is what I was telling Captain Ricks, don't put the transport vehicles in this number. Because we can take a patrol vehicle that may have 120,000 miles on it, and it goes over to transport for a year until we build up some other funds to go purchase another vehicle. We can move a vehicle. I know Smokey Anderson needs a truck at TEMA. We can move one within the county. We're trying to help everybody out because, I mean, we know money's tight for everyone. Give one to juvenile probation or something.
Jason Huber was looking for a good used Durango.
Yeah.
Available for
Yeah.
community corrections.
Yep.
You know, I think juvenile probate or adult probation.
Adult probation needed another one.
Vehicle, you may have one.
So those higher mileage vehicles, yeah, we obviously we would get some money on trade-in, but if we're able to reallocate it and move it to another department within county government, that's gonna save us money, because they're not gonna put the miles on it that at least a deputy sheriff is, there's just no
I
way.
know we're always looking for vehicles and building permits.
Yeah.
They're out there. I don't know how many miles that Mike puts on those.
okay.
well, let me just ask. I'm out of place, this is not my place to ask this, but do you need vehicles enough to the point that you would say, I would draw the $1,000 extra per employee? Because we only got so much money here.
No, I
That's-
know what
These
you're
are
saying.
two different issues, I think.
Right.
They kind of are, but we only got
separate
3.6.
I know, but we
so-
shouldn't be fighting that hard to spend all our money.
Right.
But I just wondered, I mean, where would his priorities
That'd be a
be?
tough pill to swallow, because you have jailers that don't drive those squad cars, that have come in there, and like I said, they busted their hump every day and worked in an environment that many of us would never work in. The cook, the kitchen staff, the admin assist, all that stuff going on, they don't have access to those vehicles, they can't drive them, so to say, yes, give us the vehicles and we'll cut out all this other money, is, in my opinion, just slapping everybody else in the face, saying, hey, yeah, you went to bat for us, but then you pulled it, so.
But to have effective public safety, we need to have vehicles that are reliable. That would not be
I agree.
a good
I-
thing
and
either.
I also look
I
at-
just asking.
No, and I also look at everything we do in the sheriff's department as public safety. If you don't have jailers, you don't have somebody over watching the prisoners. Nobody wants 550 of those people running the streets every day. You don't have a cook that's feeding 550 people that settle down the lawsuits. You don't have administrative staff doing the tax warrants and things like that that bring in revenue. Gun permits, the commissary, the bonds, there's so much, the warrants, there's dispatch, I mean, it just goes on and on.
Those jailers are getting about 41,000 a year, something like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, they make a decent wage, but man, the stuff
They don't
put
get
up
the
with.
perks. They don't get the perks.
They put, yeah, I worked back there, I know.
Yeah.
Turnover is high, and we're hiring a lot of them as deputies, so.
And my daughter worked there.
And I don't think there's anybody on this council that doesn't appreciate the work.
Oh, no, I
You
know.
do.
No,
mean,
I know
that's
you
not-
do.
And, you know, the same thing, you know, you talk with the cook at the jail, the cook at the villa, you know, and the nurses at the villa. And
Yep.
So, and the employees here in this building, so.
No, they're all,
Yeah,
everybody's great,
so, you
everybody's
know,
great.
I think that, just to make sure, you understand.
Terry actually said he'd give them more money.
Yeah. But I think this is good discussion to have because, you know, the vehicles, I mean, that's a real issue.
The vehicle's a thing,
It's-
no, like Rollins said, that's an
it's-
excellent question, we will get you an answer for that, because that's a great way to be able to plan.
Mhm.
And if we figure out, hey, let's just say you get all 23, and say, hey, we gotta take it on the chin this year, but next year we're only asked for 5. And if you have something like that working out of lit,
Where it's a livable number.
it's a livable number, and it could change, but not as drastic if you constantly try to add positions every year. Adding positions is something that's so dynamic that lit is, that you end up having people in the unemployment line, whereas you go, okay, now we take a cut on the vehicles.
But with respect, understand that it's hard to say we gotta have 23 to catch up. We had this conversation last year, and there was no problem.
Oh, no, we had a problem.
It didn't come like we were gonna be hit with a request for 23 the next year.
You know what, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
and that's water
Yeah, I know
under
we've
the
had a problem.
bridge or over the dam, one or the
Yeah.
other, but it's hard to say how hard to go now without knowing what the future, I'd rather see us in that 18 number and say, now, make that work, and then come back next year and show us what the plan
Yeah, and
is.
we'll get some numbers for you. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. So we'll see what number we can get to make this work.
Again, fully loaded with the lights and everything for patrol car 39, is that where we landed?
I think it's 39 to 40. That's everything brand new. Like I was just talking with Commissioner Brown, we're trying to do what we can to reuse some of the equipment.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was 34.5, something was what it came out to.
35,000.
35.
We have a lot of,
That's where I was using the 34.5 round figure to come up with the extra nine.
Gotta keep it light.
35, 37 is 245,000.
What's a horse cost?
Okay.
I'm just talking to myself.
What's a horse cost?
Gonna go to mounted
What's a horse
police
cost?
if you
officers.
went to horses, you'd have some very happy individuals. They asked me about cowboy hats yesterday. So you all have a campaign hat. You can wear that hat whenever you want.
And does vehicles in this challenge that you have, and nobody's arguing with you that you got a challenge, does that cause you to think about policies that have been around for some time, take-home cars, does that all come into the play here?
No, because part of that with the take-home thing, they're on call 24/7. They are allowed to travel 70 miles outside, and then the money is, then it, with gas, that was changed years and years ago. I think smoking changed that. And then they're responsible for the gas. We really don't have that many people that travel outside 70 miles anymore. They really don't. That includes, pardon?
Sorry, you're in a different one.
Oh,
I'd say
that
as far as
encompasses Indianapolis. It's very rare.
Indy's probably as far as anybody really ever goes.
Very rare.
After.
And then again, you have a lot of people that aren't driving them off duty anymore. Some because of the age of the officer, others the climate we're living in right now. So, we haven't, yeah, if we addressed the take-home car policy, we'd have 57 openings. If we told them to park them, they would bail. There's just so many departments now, I think about all of them giving take-home cars.
And those guys that are driving them off duty with, within the county, it looks like another
Because,
car that's
yeah.
on patrol, nobody knows.
Right.
And they can take action if they see something.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff off duty. They really
Good
do. They
point.
stop and pick up limbs out of the road. They help people push vehicles out of the way.
Kind of keeps the neighborhood in check.
Yeah, they even, when they
That's a
had
good
the
point.
incident up north, where the trooper passed away, there was a guy off duty at 8 that went up there. So they're constantly monitoring. They have to have the radio on, so, and they respond.
So for now, we're leaving the line item for 13 cars or what? Plus the, yeah.
I don't know the answer. I would say
Yeah.
leave it at 23. I'll give you the
You
answer
know, I
too.
would, if, I don't want to see us go over the budget, but if we revisit the $1,000 for the deputies, and if we do take that out, my suggestion would be to get to the 20, to give 7 additional vehicles instead of the 13 vehicles, to give 7 vehicles. Because if you gave 7 vehicles, it'd be $245,000 at $35,000 apiece. But that's if you take away that $1,000.
Well, my opinion on that, and Sheriff, don't beat me up or get wrong, but I know a lot of people that Eli Lilly went for 12 years and didn't have a raise, and I know you guys have got your backs to the wall. I'd probably be a bad cop. But, I don't have much patience with some people. But, I just don't think it's fair to the other departments. I know you guys work hard, and I know you guys are, I can't say what I want to say, I know your back's to the wall. But, and maybe use that 1,000 to kind of maneuver around the cars, and that's fine, that's good bargaining. But, I don't think the 1,000 is an issue, or the 184 is an issue. Because I support you 110%, you guys, but I don't support the $1,000 apiece for a stipend for other people that, other people in this county departments, they work hard also.
And I do agree, they work hard.
But I support you.
Oh, they do. So your suggestion, Kathy, would be to take that line item essentially to 700, the plated vehicles line to 700,000, which is 20 times 35. 20 vehicles times 35 per, minus 20 vehicles times 34.5, and then reduce the full-time employee by the 186,000.
Well, the
Or
three,
184,
the three
whatever,
separate categories. There's 3, the money is in 3
Okay.
separate funds. But yes, and it's not to say that if I could give $1,000 to every employee in the county, I would. So I don't want to diminish the respect that I have for our sheriff's department and what the sheriff is trying to do to his employees. But I just can't just segment out a group.
I understand.
No, my daughter worked for the sheriff's department, it's not an easy job.
But that's just me, and that's the way I would vote.
So do we need to actually go to a vote on this, or how do you want to resolve this?
Can you
'Cause
just
I'm
wait on
hearing-
that? There's
I'm
too many
hearing
no's.
at least three different voices that have voiced the same concept, but I don't know if we've got consensus that that's the direction we think we ought to go.
My opinion is, to be fair to all, countywide, even though the $1,000 may be warranted, for sure. You know, I think about the nurses at the Villa, I think about other essential employees. Fair isn't always fair. And I gotta be fair to everybody, from my stance. So I would support what Kathy would say, and as much as I would love to give a $1,000 stipend to every single county employee, I don't think it's fiscally smart idea right now.
I would agree with that.
Okay, well, I'm the one
You're
that,
getting too many no's, Kevin. Can we wait?
Bob's wanting to postpone
Hey, let's get
until
some sugar,
maybe he can
everybody.
lobby a
Have a
little bit.
sugar high here.
Well, are we in agreement that if we were gonna go that route, that we then take those additional funds and go, like Roland was saying, and plan on the 20 vehicles?
That was Kathy's suggestion. and I'm
Well,
of
I was
I'm
the
of
one that
mind.
texted it to her, so.
Yeah.
You want me to put it in the computer and see where we're at, because
Yeah.
like sheriff retirement is figured into that, and that's, you know,
Right.
a pretty high percentage, so I can
So if we could
quickly do
put
it.
that in there, and then put in the additional for the vehicles,
Just-
see where that puts us.
So how long does one of those vehicles last? Those,
Typically
for
about
the
4 years.
4 years?
4 to 5.
The patrol cars, you said the other
Yeah.
vehicles don't
The other,
run up
the other
35
vehicles
years.
will last longer.
Right.
But we'll have to buy new ones in 4 or 5 years, 20 more.
And you'll have, the other part of it is, the things you don't consider is you'll have people retire, you'll
Well,
have people leave.
You'll be rolling.
Yeah.
You're gonna be rolling. There'll be a quarter of those 50 patrol cars will come up next year. And then
quarter the year
will come
after.
up the next year. So it'll be 12 and a half per year for patrol, plus the auxiliaries that don't rack up, that last maybe 6, 7 years.
If it's a little high, that's all right, but.
So we shouldn't get hit by 20 again.
No, if we can keep on top of it. and
Yeah,
keep on a
every
regular
year, a
schedule.
certain amount, and, yeah.
But we gotta catch up at some point.
Oh, I know, it's not your average car.
Oh, wait, can't be. I put 20 vehicles in at 35,000, and I assume that would include the light bars or, okay, so 35,000 would,
Include it.
that would, I've got 20 of them in. Okay, and I'm still $100,000 less than what I would say is our max.
Hope we give everybody 50 cents.
To buy 2 more cars.
I say with that, could we consider
Yeah.
doing a few more to get us to that point that we need to be?
You have a lot of other public safety equipment that you can move over.
The stuff we were gonna purchase on our own.
Out of commissary.
Yeah, or we look at, the radio situation. We'll use current radios as much as we can, but with new digital and things like that, I don't know exactly what all, they should be fine.
What we're buying new right now is what's in all the vehicles now. So as long as they don't change the technology, we'll be okay. We're taking those out, putting them in new.
But we've got whatever the whole thing, Smokey, that's not Smokey, that's Tracy. Whatever he's gonna talk about 911 tomorrow, I mean, if we had $100,000 of lit public safety, I think that would be well spent out of that fund too, but we were gonna talk about that tomorrow morning.
Yes,
so
Right.
first thing
Jumping
tomorrow morning.
ahead, but
Right.
I'm not sure we wanna go
So,
up to 3.6.
yeah, we don't necessarily want to absorb the
Keep
whole
it at
thing right
20.
now. Let's keep it there.
And the one thing I want to make sure is, I know we have the reserve as well, but I want to make sure we're not spending all the money on this kind of stuff. We keep some for programming, because that's going to be extremely important moving forward.
Right. Sheriff, what were you getting ready to say?
I was saying thank you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I get what you're saying about the money, I totally get it.
Well,
Like I said before, I gotta ask, but
We
At least I can say
we
thank
do
you for the-
appreciate all you guys. do.
looking at the vehicle situation, so.
Yeah.
Can I get up now.
Yes, I think you're safe, if we're all satisfied with where we are at this point.
All right.
All right.
And Eric is here now,
Oh, Eric is here.
over here.
Oh, yeah, he's in the back.
Yeah.
He's hiding in the corner. Do we want to go back to the assessor then?
Yeah, if we can,
Because I know there were some questions there.
yeah.
I think so. I have 20 in at 35,000 each, so I had 700,000
I gotta find my,
for that line for vehicles.
so Eric, the question that we had was on your budget, the personal property auditor to 53,000. Now, Bob shared with you an email indicating where you wanted to take the funds out, we cannot. So what did you want to do with that position?
I think for now, until I have some clarification on why whoever told Bob that is what they're thinking, I plan on revisiting it and trying to get an idea of where they're coming from. The only reason we thought we could do that was after some conversations with Matt Salisbury about what that fund could be used for. And I still think when I read through that code, it didn't say anything overtly that it couldn't be used for an employee, and I think the implications of saying it can't be used for an employee are pretty corrupt, because that would mean it could only be done through a contractor, and there's only 2 contractors that really do this, and I could go on and on about why I think both of those paths are bad options, but I think the legislative intent of saying, like, no county can perform this work themselves through this account, and funneling money to this account so it can only be used to pay a contractor, I have so many questions about the legislative intent.
This is, and this is the letter that we got from State Board of Accounts, and I believe this is the code that allowed for that fund, and it clearly says a contract. And when she sent it to me, it kind of chopped off some of this end part, but here it's got the contract. It must be that the assessor, the commissioners may enter into a contract to do this work.
Yeah, and we talked to Matt Salisbury. It seemed like the money in that fund could be used without appropriation to pay a contractor or be dispersed back to the districts that it belongs to without appropriation. And so our question is, what could you do with appropriation? And he was like, well, you could do anything with appropriation. However, it would be unethical to appropriate that money to anything like the county general fund, or it would have to be used for a purpose commensurate with the fund. Like, instead of hiring a contractor, pay an employee to do the same. And I have a lot of complaints too about, like, just so you know, a full audit cycle for the county costs about $1 million, and I can't imagine why it would cost more than, most of that's corporate profit. The vast majority of it's corporate profit. I mean, like $800,000, you know. They're really wasteful contracts. But anyway, to answer your question, because I know you have a lot on your plate, I say we just scrap the position, because, you know, until we get clarification on it and revisit it later. But I don't see a way to funding it in this climate through another funding source, and that's what's desirable about that.
Now, you included that in your request in the general fund. When I did adding them up, looking at your salary statement, and you deduct the ones for reassessment, your general fund, and that, it kind of looks like, if I can jump over here to, wasn't there a position that was unfilled that you were not requesting? Because I went from like 564,000 to 577, and that looked like that was probably like eliminating a comet and then creating this pad would be about that $13,000 increment. So, but doing the math, it is included in your general fund request, because we didn't have a 1177 fund for you to request it
You mean
on.
the PAT 3 position is included?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, you do have it in your request, and, you know, you would probably like to have it to still do the work, because it is good to have those personal property returns audited.
I would agree.
And, you know, we could still distribute this money if we have voided all the contracts. And do we have a contract yet with lenders or?
And that's the other part of it. We do have a contract. Like I said, I don't have a lot of respect for the contractor. The contract ended pretty badly with an account balance of around $400,000. They say we owe them about $100,000. I completely disagree, but even if we can see that that money's owed and pay them the $100,000, that leaves a fund balance of about $300,000 that we planned on as a worst-case scenario when we decided to kind of create this position.
you're saying we can just call these contracts, I don't know, I mean, Doug would have to weigh in on, in my opinion, these contracts we've been trying to cancel these contracts. This is a 1-year contract that we started in 2015 that we haven't been able to get out of. So to me, it's like, I would love to be done with these contracts, call them all done and over with, and yeah, just liquidate that account, if that's what you're saying.
Because one of the things that she was mentioning in this email, if you read the email that came from Lori, that once the contract ends, we need to disperse the money. And I responded back to her, you didn't see that one, but that I thought we still had a contract in place, we're just not giving them any work to do. Is that true?
No work's been performed.
The TMA, that contract's done.
No, that's what we're talking about.
But no, oh, I thought it was lenders, because that came after TMA, didn't it?
That's closed out for years.
But TMA contract is still, we have not ended that one
They haven't done work
officially?
in years, but I don't know, like in this state of like pre-litigation, where we always talk about litigating it, but neither side has really done anything, and our attorneys have advised we do not pursue litigation, but rather kind of be on the responding end of it. So really, I think that their plan is just to wait for me to be out of office at some point, and then convince y'all to pay them $100,000. But yeah, so that contract, I don't know if it's over, because it hasn't, if you ask me, it's over. If you ask them, no, it's not over, you owe us $100,000. So, I don't know.
But we could have a contract and you just not give them any work.
Oh, they have not been doing
Yeah.
any work under that contract for many years.
Yeah.
So anyway, it would be great to have a person in that position. We can allocate some time under the existing staff we have. And so I think just scrap it, and then we'll try to revisit this with them and work out something.
But if we took this position away from the general fund, have you then basically lost a position? Because didn't you, I mean, you had one that wasn't filled, but weren't you replacing this one with an unfilled one? And that where my $13,000 increment increase comes from? So are you saying that we could just eliminate that position? Let's see. To eliminate, this is the one here, and this is included in your general fund total. But you're really not okay with me taking 53,816 away from this number, are you?
Which job are you talking about on that list?
Which person? The very last one?
Very last, okay.
That's the new position, correct?
Yeah, so I think, I don't know how careful we have to be about talking about, obviously an equal opportunity county, so we don't really know who would exactly be placed in an open job, but yeah, we did kind of have some intentions of seeing if there's someone that we had qualified for that job. So you're saying it is funded?
It's included in your request in the general fund.
Okay.
It says 1177, but we didn't give you a form for 1177, and you didn't. So you have included that in the general fund request. So you would like to keep that, I mean, for us to do what you're requesting, just not pay it out of the 1177 fund.
No, I'm saying scrap the personal property auditor job.
So take 53,816 away from your general fund request?
I'm kind of confused because the idea was that job was going to be paid out of the personal property audit fund. So if we're going to scrap it, I don't know why you would take it out of the general fund, because it's not currently funded out of the general fund, nor was it ever.
But that's where you've requested it. If we're scrapping the position, we have to take it out of where you requested it. You know what I'm saying?
If I did request that out of the general fund, I guess that was a miscommunication.
Because I think your intention probably was out of the 1177. We didn't get that, and so I tried to create the 1177 for us to do that today if we needed to, but now I don't feel good about that.
Yeah, I guess scrapping the position, it doesn't exist already, so I mean, whatever, it's not gonna be funded, period, from any account, right? And it isn't currently funded from any account, so.
What's Mary's position now?
She has what is labeled as a vacant COM3 job, which if she
Okay,
did not
okay,
get that
okay,
job, will not be
okay,
vacant.
okay, okay, all right.
So yeah, it's not like she's gonna lose.
Okay,
her
I
job.
just
She's
didn't
not
want her to
losing
be
her job over this or
out
anything
in
like
the,
that, so, we were just trying to think of what it would look like if we did hire internally, knowing that that might not, I mean, we may not have hired her internally. It's like I said, we post the job and see who applies, but, no, I understand your question now. So yeah, I'm just saying scrap it from the general fund, scrap it until we have some clarification on, the intention was never to fund it from general fund.
So I'm going to do this unless somebody tells me not to do that. Take that position out of there. So now you have less than what you had before.
That's good, right?
Yeah, that's good, yeah. Maybe everybody's going to follow your lead.
All right, I think that's the only open question we had. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. So, moving on from there.
Kind of morph from commissioners back into sheriff again.
What's that?
We kind of morph from commissioners
We
over
did.
to sheriff.
We really kind of did it kind of bad, too.
HR is kind of what you're up to, I think, if there's anything to
Yeah,
talk about there.
HR and maintenance and soil and water. There weren't any changes that I had recorded there. Kathy, did you have anything?
No, I did not.
Should we take a quick break now? Or we were scheduled to at 2:30, but
2:45.
until
We were scheduled at
2:30.
2:30 to 2:45, you're
We
right.
want to take 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. I just looked at it, and as we were kind of getting back into this, I thought, this might make as good a spot as any to just stop for a moment and then pick back up.
So we had the 410,000 we moved over, and then we moved over the 39,000. Put everything.
You're gonna start with HR.
Okay, all right. good.
Um,
Okay, that
Well,
sounds
we
good.
didn't
Okay,
have any
perfect.
changes, so we had already buzzed
Okay,
past it.
so, I mean, Amy and Rob are here from PD.
Okay.
But I'm not trying to cut them if there's somebody else that you had queued up.
No, we don't have anyone else
We're
queued
gonna
up.
go quick too, we don't have much with them.
Okay, so we could skip to them real quick.
Is that all right?
Yeah,
I'll let them know.
yeah, let them know that we'll just.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Which, they did not send me this, which is a copy of this. No, that'd be great. Okay.
Unfortunately, both you and I were like fresh out.
What you're saying, the differential made sense, but if you're subtracting one,
We're talking about Kemper.
It seems
No,
like
we're breaking it, they want to stop.
I know.
trying to say that we need
sounds
to.
like this is what he has in there.
'Cause- And, do I still have that up there?
Aren't already gonna remember because they've been stuck on
Yeah.
the same topics.
I don't know, I guess, I mean, he still has, well, he's got 2 vacants. Well, that one's reassessment, one's,
we're gonna skip over to, what, PD and probation real quick, since they're both in the room with us. So do we want to start with PD first? Sure. PD, sorry. Sorry, Dave. Is Amy?
Yeah, they're here.
And I can't see because of the
There,
poll.
she's here.
There she is.
We can run down through the proposed changes. No staff changes in as far as attorneys go, but they requested the commissioners approved an administrative assistant. Was that the title that you're talking, Amy?
Actually, it's a litigation assistant.
Litigation assistant. And so that number, Bob, we just want to confirm is indeed, I got my spreadsheet messed up here. That number is included in the 728,261. We just want to make sure.
It's various ones there, it's really kind of hard to.
It's up towards the top.
Yeah, you just want to look for that position. What's it called?
Litigation assistant?
Litigation assistant, that's right there, vacant, new 221.
You got new for 21 there.
But since you do your calculation on the reimbursement, just want to make sure that translated over. Okay. And then with that, the part-time request of 133, which would have covered part of that job had that not been granted, can be reduced to 98,000, correct, Amy?
Yes, absolutely.
And then office supplies can be reduced to 12,500. 12,500. Training, again, most of this COVID-related and inability to go would be, can be reduced to 3,000. And travel and training can be reduced to 10,000. The professional services, obviously a big number. You can see that they're spending at that same clip through this year. We also have the fee fund that we can pull out of. Do you have any other comments particular to the general fund, Amy, at all?
I do not.
Okay. And then the Public Defender User Fee Fund, 1,200.
Page 51.
51.
Had no changes here. And I don't think we've got any further questions.
Any questions for Amy? Thank you, Roland.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Okay. Back over to probation. Page number
27.
27, next page after PD.
Good afternoon, Dave Hollinger with your probation department.
For personnel changes, we just had the one position added, another probation probation officer, the commissioners approved that Bob's put that into the, to be funded out of lit. This is, Dave, you might just mention the involvement with Superior 7 and just how you came to the recommendation to add this position.
Certainly. If I may, I'm going to take my mask down here. So January 1 of next year, there will effectively will start Superior Court 7, and Superior Court 7 will be sharing in the load that's also shared by Superior Court 4 and Superior Court 5. So right now, Superior Court 4 and Superior Court 5, with the assistance of the Superior Court 4 and 5 staff, the judges, and also deputy prosecutors staff, or prosecutor staff, deputy prosecutors out of Superior 4 and 5, they schedule what are referred to as compliance hearings. So in these courts, when someone is sentenced, oftentimes the court will not order them to come directly for supervised probation to our office, but rather will ask them to fulfill certain obligations, financial, substance abuse evaluation, assessment, domestic violence programming. And at some point, they'll ask the defendant or the client to come back to court to demonstrate that they are in compliance and they've completed that. Typically, the courts will set that out 6 months down the road. Judge Zeman out of Superior Court 4 has been pushing for some time, asking why her court does not have a probation officer to assist in compliance hearings, basically trying to reduce the docket load in Superior Court 4 and Superior Court 5, Judge McVeigh's court, in that a defendant would come back and show a staff member, be it a probation officer or currently a prosecutor staff, that indeed they bring their paperwork and show they've completed all their obligations. That then frees the court docket, as in that defendant doesn't need to get in line and pack their court calendar. As of January 1, there will the court will not be providing staff, nor will the prosecutor's office be providing staff to assist in verifying compliance. And to that end, Judge Zeman spearheaded an effort along with Judge Williams and Judge McVeigh, asking that proposing that an additional probation officer position be pulled out of the public safety fund. So I would have a staff member that would effectively be managing approximately 1,875 compliance hearings a year. That comes out to about, well, it comes out to exactly 156 compliance hearings per month. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge in that one officer and some administrative support staff I'm going to have to find or assign to that officer. They're going to have to manage compliance review hearings, not in one court or two courts, but now 3 courts. So it's going to, their plate's going to be full. I'm sorry, that's a long answer to a short question. That's what I would request, is that you consider approving my asking of this additional probation officer position.
Dave also has the user fee fund, I think it's on page 56, as well as the old court services fund. Both of those, they've kept righted as far as fund balances. One could ask whether the additional probation officer could be funded out of user fees, but that might be pushing it a bit yet, even though they've got a healthy balance here. Fees we know are going to get hit in 20, balance, this year, and possibly into 21, don't know. So we were okay funding the new position out of lit. But then in the user fee fund, they've adjusted down the revenue estimate for next year in anticipation, but that fund should still be healthy enough to support that. We don't think we had any other changes in either of the 2 funds, either user fees or substance abuse, mental health.
Both of those funds, if you project out to the end of the year, they're they're less than in previous years, and that's effectively the fact that we also kind of went dark for about 3 months with the COVID crisis. So it's not that we didn't have any clients, it's just we were reducing or shut down some of our face-to-face contacts, and with that then reduces our opportunity to try to encourage people to make payment on fees. It's just really been a challenge. I project that our probation user fee fund for 2020 will net about $21,000. And in 2019, we netted $46,000. So we're getting hit hard. We'll carry a balance probably around $250,000 maybe at the end of the year. On the court services side, if we get out of the year in the black, if we net in the black, I'll be pleased. If you project out our monthly revenue, as of June, we had first half of 2020 revenue of $82,801.
And you're on court services, that's
Yeah, I'm
page
sorry.
58.
Maybe I jumped ahead. I'm
You're
sorry.
fine. You're fine.
In essence, our expenses exceed our revenue by about $16,000 if we project out through the end of the year. But we've been keeping our powder dry. We have about $115,000 in that fund, in the court services fund. That is a little bit scarier for me as an administrator, because if everyone stopped paying tomorrow, I've got about 7.5 months worth of padding in my budget, and then I would be at zero again. And we've been working really hard in conjunction with our colleagues on the council, making sure that we got past debts taken care of, and at the same time staying in the black. So that's what we intend to do. And I apologize, I didn't mean to jump ahead to court
No worries,
services.
that's fine. That's where we were. We had no changes to that fund either.
Okay.
This seems, if you wanted to cut anything in the court services, it seems like the 1230, the health insurance, when you see no changes in the staffing there, unless there could be a change in coverage. The first 6 months, we spent less than 20,000. I mean, that's what I had noted, that we could cut that to 40,000. That's what we had before.
I'm sorry, tell me which line you're at again.
On the ends, it's the 9410, 1230 is the health insurance. It may be at the end of your, no, it probably isn't. It'd be right after the salaries and the Social Security and perf. We have 42,000 requests. Now, it's a fund that you're not going to use it just because you have it. So it's going to carry over, but to make it look a little better, we could lower that to 40,000. You could lower that a couple thousand.
Certainly. I don't anticipate that there's going to be any change as far as coverage requests. Again, that's out of the user fee fund. It's not going to have a direct impact on it's going to look good, but I mean, in the end, it's not going to really change the bottom line as far as the general fund goes, but I'm happy to agree to that modification. I might also mention, I know Roland and Lisa, we talked about this during our meeting. The courts have the capacity under the Indiana code to assess fees referred to as probation user fees, and also what are referred to as administrative fees. And Judge Morrissey does this out of Superior Court 6. I have an officer that manages compliance issues in Superior Court 6, and Judge Morrissey orders fees associated with that individual's interaction with us, including an administrative fee and also an initial probation fee. And the administrative fee goes directly into the general fund. when we collect fees, probation fees from clients, the first fee we always collect is the administrative fee. And that then, at the end of every month, when we reconcile our accounts, the first check that gets written is the administrative fee, or what we refer to as the admin fee, and that goes into the general fund. I'm sorry, I don't know what that total is right now. I have it in front of me, but I anticipate that of the approximately 1,800 clients that we'll be interacting with sometime in 2021, Superior 4, Superior 5, and Superior 7, that hopefully we'll have that similar type assessment as far as fees go, even though we may not be interacting with them as frequently as we would on a supervised probation case. We still can assess, or the court can still assess those fees. And those potentially could add up to help offset some of the cost for this probation officer's position I'm requesting.
So you requested like 82,000 for probation for the general fund compared to last year's 75,000? Do you have built into some additional amounts? Or could we raise that 82,000 for your projected revenue for the general fund?
I want to be careful in raising it because it requires, one, I don't know who the judge is going to be in 7. I don't know who the judge is going to be in 4, and whether or not they're going to assess those fees.
Yeah.
I would certainly encourage whoever that is to consider just that,
But potentially could go up, what are you talking about, 10,000, 20,000, 2,000, 200?
yeah, again, I don't want to get in that trick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I understand.
I wanted to point out that it's, the assessment of those fees hopefully will be occurring, but it requires
The
me
judge.
to request that of the courts also.
Anything else there? Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I see the prosecutor and Judge Graham are both here. Do we want to shift to one of the two of them? Which do you want first, Rollin?
Go ahead, Pat.
Go ahead, Pat.
We look at general fund first. We agreed with the commissioner's recommendation for the one new DPA, that deputy prosecutor.
Page 26.
It's page 26, general fund. And the one digital forensic assistant. Need to make sure we square up with Bob as to where these are funded. I believe we need to make sure, the understanding was that they, what's your comment on there, Bob?
That was about the public safety, moving the positions over there. So that's my reduction there is.
Right. So the one DPA and the one digital forensic assistant are in the lit.
Correct.
fund and not in this number.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not anymore, yeah.
So Pat's general fund for this account's pretty self-explanatory thereafter. That's all you have in general fund, right, Pat? Yeah.
And we don't need to address any of the other things in lit at this point, since we've kind of combed through that pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So do we need to look at pretrial,
Yeah, he's got his other funds.
and infraction on page 57.
We had no changes versus proposed in either this or the infraction diversion.
No changes on those?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have anything on warrant, law enforcement warrant?
Just
page 61?
We did talk about that this morning, Pat, on the law enforcement warrant fund. You might just share your thoughts, knowing that that thing will be sunsetting in the next.
Right, at the current, sorry. At the current expenses, we're probably gonna run out of that fund here in about 1 or 2 years, 2 years. As you know, that was a one-time forfeiture fund. I think it was about, I heard Bob say earlier, it's about right, it started about 1.5 million, like 6 or 7 years ago. We've used that to pay a full-time employee, our part-times, overtime. We've used it to fund the high-tech crime unit, pay for all the ramp up of that, all the servers, all the licenses. We were very blessed that we had that money. And what it's done for law enforcement has really been, we're only 1 of 2 counties in the state that has it. And we are constantly being called by other law enforcement agencies. So I expressed that, I know we have lit the public safety coming on board. I've been listening today, and I agree, you're trying to take a very cautious approach until you can build the fund up and see where we're going. I just wanted to give my council reps advance notice that in a year or so, we're gonna have to look moving those people, which we always do historically, someday this would run out, would go back to another fund. Just a heads up on that.
And Pat was already ahead of us too, but with LIT not just coming to us, but also to the other entities in the county. Pat's done a lot over the years to support the other law enforcement departments, and high-tech crime unit has become important for everybody, so he's already beginning the process of dropping hints, if not requests, to the other units. They are welcome to participate too in support of that. I think we all know that high-tech crime unit is going to be here for the long-term future.
For all law enforcement. And I want to thank the sheriff because we discussed this, and that's why this position for the civilian employee is going to be on my budget. It actually is going to be basically a joint position to work the county sheriff's department cases. That frees up their detective. That detective basically has to spend at least 3 to 4 weeks a year in training to keep up on the accreditation, plus the expense. Plus, as you know, law enforcement, they're here with us for a year or 2 or 3, they get promoted, they move to a different area, they're no longer a high-tech crime. This is the model we want to use going forward, and this is the model we're going to start, when we have started talking with Lafayette Police Department and West Lafayette, which is actually, I think, on board right now with us to start getting them to fund positions. They'll just be, they can be through their own department, but they're going to be civilian as opposed to law enforcement. That will free up their officer to be on the road or back in the department doing traditional law enforcement roles. Thank you.
Yeah, that was it. Thank you, Pat.
All right, thank you, Pat.
Now, one thing to note about this, I think these numbers, if anybody notices, this is different than what's in the book. We did get a revised budget for the law enforcement warrant fund, the El Rodeo, 4266. Those are a little different. There was a few little revisions based on, it didn't look like the budget they initially submitted could be supported with their cash balance.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Pat.
And I also appreciate the setup. It's been very easy to follow you online, watching you.
All right,
Good.
good.
Superior Court 3, Judge Graham. Page 31.
Ed and I met with the judge, and I do not see any changes to the budget as presented.
Okay. Any questions for Judge Graham?
No, I would say that our CHINS and TPR division of the Public Defender's Office is actually working as we had hoped and going going well. So as we've gone over, I've been able to continue to reduce my proper council budget for just the conflicts and things we could not get done. But yeah, I've got it down to, I think, 35. Cut it down some more for next year. I think we might be okay.
I'm not good at math, but that's a lot better than 600.
It was, yeah, it was surprising. We're doing a lot better.
Yeah.
And then I also want to check in with the 4D, on the 4D budget, just in case you have any questions on that. We're excited about the new courtroom. Hopefully, be ready next week, I'm told.
And this is page 27.
27, yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
And that looks like that was a decrease of 5,000 in your part-time line, that went from 25 to 20. We thought that would be possible.
I think we did talk about that.
Okay.
Anything else for me?
Any other questions for Judge Graham?
Kevin, do we want to do CASA while we have the judge here, since she's so intimately involved and Colleen was not going to be able to
Correct.
make it?
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, I can spot.
Do we
Okay,
want to
that
do
would be fine.
I can spot in, I think.
Page 31 is CASA.
The only thing different is when we look at our, the part-time benefit eligible, this was just from a grant that looked like we were going to be receiving 80%. Was that right, Ben? Is
Yeah.
that your recollection? And then we have just a little increase in that.
I think currently it's 70%, but now we got to do 80%.
And my question, I'm not sure if Judge Graham would know the answer to this, but do you know where the health insurance is coming from? Is that a general fund responsibility, or is that
For a grant funded.
for this new position, which was going to be kind of split?
I don't know.
If you don't know, that's
Sorry, I
fine,
don't know
that,
the
yeah.
answer to
I
that.
wouldn't really
I
expect
think
you to know. but
Split between the,
If it's going to be split between the general fund and the grant.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Oh, me, sorry, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. Try not to touch anything.
And then the part-time went up, is that right? By 8,000? They're hiring another person and the
That's because of the
Yeah.
grant and what what we have to assume out of the general fund.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else for me? If not, then.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks, Kevin, for doing CASA.
Mm-hmm. All right, where did we leave off?
I think we're at mids, aren't we?
Yeah.
So you were asking about,
Talk close.
I'm right here. You were asking about the extra funds that we had for the vehicles we traded in.
Yes.
So we ordered an additional vehicle just the other day. So that's where that money went. So we were able to trade in enough to save money to get another vehicle.
Got it.
There you go.
Cool. Thanks, Sheriff. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, where did we?
Mids, I think. Or,
Do it.
we don't
Do
call
it.
it mids anymore. I got in trouble
Do
with
it.
Kent
Come
yesterday
on.
about that.
Kent's gonna come and whack you upside the head.
When I started, it was data processing, so I'm lucky to even know minutes.
You're still ready for a hammer and a chisel,
Oh,
Bob.
we didn't do it?
All right,
Just looking at, do it on page 16 of the
page
general fund.
16, general fund.
And Lisa and I met with Kent we were able to reduce some of the line items. Printing supplies go down to 15,000, so a reduction of 5. Training, 3,150, can be reduced down to a total of 1,500. And then 3,210, travel and training can be reduced to a total amount of 1,200.
Okay, very good.
And that's just obviously with the training, travel is less and less. There are still some needs, because he's got some new employees, but the travel is reduced significantly.
Okay. Do we have anything, page 35
Page
is
35.
is EDIT, and
Yeah.
40 is CUMCAT. Anything there?
There is. So on page 35 out of EDIT, that's right, Fund 3150, training at MITS, will need to go up an additional 2,000 due to a bill that is due, need to be paid by the end of 2021 for an existing contract. That's it. Okay. So no, it's not a reduction, but.
Where's it at?
It's on page 35.
What line item?
1112, 1410, 3150.
$3,150. Oh, there it is.
Did notice, just for discussion only, that 4510, the general machinery and equipment is lower, but that's because some of the things, the major repairs have been done already. Switches and whatnot have been upgraded and improved.
And you're hoping to get some of the machines replaced using the CARES
Using
funding?
CARES Act, additional laptops through CARES funding is a hope.
Correct.
Going down to the MITS GIS, just underneath that, 2110 office supplies, reduce that down to a total of $2,000. And then 3210 travel and training, reduce that to $2,252. So we took 2,000 out, a little more around there. I believe that's all I have. Lisa, did I miss anything?
You
Kent?
had more than me, so.
Okay.
Okay. Anything on CUMCAP?
CUMCAP,
Page
we're
40.
gonna take out $1,000 out of 1138, 1410, 3240 software.
What, how much?
Take out 1,000.
Is that from 1,000 to 0? Am I on the right
Yeah.
line?
Yes.
Okay, to make it 0.
So, more money for CUMCAP?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kent.
Thanks, Ben.
Good job, Kent.
All righty. Voter registration and elections is the next one. Did we?
So, unless you want to wait for clerk to do that one. 'cause
Yeah,
that
we can
really
do that with the
usually-
clerk.
she's
I
not
don't
That
here
was
then.
clerk?
Yeah, we can do them together. We've already agreed to our, the revisions. Hold on a second. We can ask Julie to come back if we need her. I think things are pretty straightforward for, what page are you on, Kevin? We'll do that one first.
Well, general fund is for voter registration and elections is 17.
Okay. Okay, that came first. She obviously made drastic changes for this year, or for next year with no election coming. we did ask about the part-time, and she is using a part-time person to primarily work on the rules that we have around, or the policy around vote centers is our original one that we had when we first piloted them back in the whenevers. And so she is looking to get those revised, particularly with the advent of new voting machines and all. We didn't have any changes, bottom line, on this, and obviously she's drastically cut things down. There's some basic office costs, 500, 800, postage, software. Each of those line items were substantiated in our mind. No changes in staff. And then for the clerk fund,
Can we move back there a little bit here?
Yep.
Back to voter, if you're done with voter?
Yep.
The election board line,
Yep.
I did talk to Julie about this. That's the same as what it was for this year. Historically, it's been 0 in the non-election years. Up on the screen, that's, 17, we did have, there was a West Lafayette referendum. The school referendum was that year. We had 9,000. We did have 6,413, but 9,5,197.
well, that preceded me with her, so
That,
What year was that? I know 2009, I had one, you say 16?
well, just the years with no elections, 9,5,1 and 97, it was 0. It's about as far back as my little records went. But then we did have, we've always had at least a reduced amount.
yeah.
What did she say?
Well, I would like for her to respond to that, but
Okay.
they've got some things that they need to go over for this year, but
She's engaged
It's-
them more, I know, but certainly
but
I
to keep
didn't
the same
realize that
page with no
opportunity
elections.
existed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Let's
just something
follow
to
up
bring
with
that
her
up.
about that. Thank you, Bob. Then for clerk, we just had a couple of changes. We appreciate Julie is trying to move what she can out of general fund. To that end, the other professional services reduced from 14,400 to 10,000. No. And capital miscellaneous equipment to 2,000. That's all in her general fund. She's got records perpetuation in the other funds.
Perpetuation's page 36.
Thank you, Bob.
This is where we shifted. You can increase the other professional services from 0 to 4,400. We shifted that over. That was the only change we had for records perpetuation. So elected official training, I think that it was Julie that said that that had been expanded such that deputies can now use that fund.
Correct. It's still restricted training. It's not for any training, but yes, it is been
Correct. So we didn't have any
stretched out.
changes to what was proposed there. But that's good to know, because that thing's gotten out of control, no fault of our own.
And now we're doing virtual training, so we're.
Yeah.
Which is even less money.
Yeah. And then the clerk 4D, we had no changes. Basically, she's staffing there where she has this year. Revenue seems to be holding there as well, so it's kept the same as it was for 2020. Fund is currently pretty healthy. One of the things that Julie did point out, if she comes back, we'll talk to her about the voter registration board, but when Krista ended, we did a massive amount of spending out of the funds, extra funds to get scanning what we thought was done. There's still some scanning to do that Julie's still working on. So I didn't comment it back in the general fund, but there's still work being done to finish up some additional scanning. They're also obviously not scanning everything. What they can get rid of, they are, but there's still some residual costs there. But she's got it managed in such a way that we're not draining those non-general funds excessively. That was all we had there. Did we miss anything, Lisa?
Not that I can see.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Back in the general fund, we would have been,
And we did figure out all the new hires and everything.
Oh,
That
yeah.
all got straightened out with Superior Court 7 and where they all belong.
There is one position that she has got in here that the commissioners have not yet created.
Correct, so it's in the budget, and that's where we ended up on that, Tom, that we still have that one that was in her budget request that you all just never heard, so you didn't vote yea or nay. We are recommending, and that would be for her additional support of 7. I did talk to her in the hallway at the break, and after our discussion about 6 and this morning, you know, it may be that she wasn't talking about any more people, but she may be shifting around how she uses those. She wanted to think about that some more as far as splitting them between 6 and 7 instead of 5 and 7. But net effect is still the same. The commissioners would need to approve that if the numbers stay as they are shown here.
And we could get the commissioner's approval today, in this meeting or tomorrow? Is
Don't
that-
necessarily need to right now.
Okay.
They can do that at their next meeting.
Okay.
okay. Back over, if we're done with all that, we'd be up to area plan on page 17.
So John and I met with Sally, and there's a few reductions, and Sally, you can add whatever you're wanting to add, but in my notes I had on 2140, the minor equipment, bring that from 2,000 to just 1,000, as it was budgeted for 2020, and then also 3190, bring that to 500. So take 500 off. And that was all the changes we had. Sally, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, just unless you have any questions about what any of these line items get used for.
Nope.
We made
Any other?
The minor,
Okay.
the minor equipment versus repair and maintenance. What's the difference of the minor equipment in an office and repair
Yeah.
and maintenance?
The number 2140,
Okay,
which is computer and minor equipment, those are purchases.
right.
So there are times when I might need a piece of computer equipment or an add-on, an upgrade to a piece of computer equipment, and I can pay for it out of the transportation reimbursement, but I need the 20% match. So this is where the 20% match sometimes comes from, if it's not already in either the commissioner's budget or Kent's budget. And that does happen occasionally for things that weren't necessarily planned. For instance, I need a new set of double monitors that are GIS grade, and I can pay for those 80% out of the transportation budget. we'll either pay the 20% or maybe Kent can pay the 20%. We haven't negotiated that deal yet. The one below that, the 2340, that doesn't exist anymore, and I don't know if it shows up in your budget. It shows up in the form that I get from Bob, but it was zeroed out in favor of the line item 3620, which says repair of vehicle and equipment. And most of what we use that for is if the big plotter needs repair or, work on that. That's mostly what that goes for. So one is repair, one is purchase.
And John, with that, the one, when it starts with a 2, when you see like the 2340, the 2, that means it's a supply, and a 3 means a service. So my little illustration of that is, like if you're gonna get your oil changed, if you go and buy the oil, that's a 2. If you go and have your oil changed by somebody, that's a 3. So one's a service and one is a supply. So I think we kind of had that out of kilter a little bit, so.
Okay.
It took a while, but I think we
Yeah.
got it all sorted
Yeah,
out.
and the line's on there because back in 2017, we did use it, so it kind of sticks on there for a while till it pushes out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sally looks a little relieved, but not totally relieved. This is going to be her last budget with us.
Right.
As being on Personnel Committee for APC, we're just now getting started with a search for her replacement as Executive Director and Transportation Director. Sally was kind enough to extend her stay with us beyond this fall, which was the original plan, but COVID and a few other factors came into play, but there'll be due time to honor her properly, but thank you, Sally.
Yeah. And thank you. And I told APC that I would stay until there was a replacement, so I don't exactly have a retirement date, but we'll know as we work through this fall a little more closely when that will be.
So we can't move the director's salary down to $1. Is that what you're saying?
Probably not be a good
Oh, then you would have to stay, wouldn't you?
And I wouldn't stay for a
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
Sally.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks, Sally.
Okay, I think next up is, next page, page 18, building permits.
Building permits, there really isn't any changes to it. Kind of wanted to keep it where it's at. One thing I did want to mention is that Mike shared with us is on the travel and training. They'll definitely be using the majority of that because there's a new residential code and the staff is needing training on that. So that's why you kind of see the increase of what's been spent so far this year and what's being requested for 2021. And they will be doing that, I believe, jointly with West Lafayette as well.
Okay. Alrighty. Next up is veterans, and there's actually, they reduced.
He was here, is he still?
If he's.
Oh, no, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. I was
No,
like,
no.
I didn't see him walk in.
I'm on the wrong one. I'm thinking weights and measures here.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that.
But they actually dropped, what was it, office supplies, or a couple of different lines there. You know,
Flags
that-
or something.
and professional services. So their total budget down close to, not quite 2,000, 1,500. So we didn't make any changes. Same thing with weights and measures. So nothing there. Tippecanoe Villa. I've got 3 marks there, John. Hopefully you agree. Office 2110, office supplies, take that to 500.
Right.
The travel and mileage, 3210, take that to 300.
Right.
And the 3620, take it to 5,000.
Correct.
with that, Bob?
I think so.
Okay. Next up is carry home. And I only had one change noted there. Did you have anything, Ben? I
No.
had 5,000 from the 3610 line.
Yeah, you just took 5,000 out?
Yep.
Yep.
And that, yeah, take 5,000 out 3610, reduce to a total of 30,000. 1130 part-time is low just due to COVID, but she expects that to continue
To
at the
bounce
same,
back.
yeah, bounce back.
Yeah.
Overtime, she said 1150. Although it's low now, it will be giving back some from personnel. And that's, building repairs is lower because the major repairs have been done or paid through. We've hit ADA Commissioners Fund for some of the bathrooms that are becoming compliant there. But all in all.
Yeah, that's why that one was cut from the 77 to 35.
But besides that one change, that's all there is.
Right. Yep.
The maintenance and grounds, it's a little out of balance. Running like 7,000 instead of 20.
I think she expects in the maintenance grounds to be, with the heating and cooling, some of the older structure, to stay on top of that. If maybe I'm looking at the wrong fund number for that. Is that for the bug man and other
Yeah, I think so.
ongoing maintenance that I think just didn't happen this year?
Yeah, I believe that's what I recall. That was the only changes I had noted there. Juvenile alternatives, I don't think we had anything, did we?
No.
Can we go back to, I believe, just so to make note of it, on page 61, this is from my memory, maybe I'm wrong here, that the carry home donation fund.
Donation fund, yeah.
I just got that, we talked about that last week, so.
Yes.
This is what they have told me they have a balance of 24,000, and for us to get a little appropriation in there, so if they need to do something,
Which account?
it's
Page
4130 on
61.
page
Got it.
61.
The donation part?
Yeah, the carry home donation. But we try and get, at least some of the cash balance appropriated, so.
I think we talked about that.
We did
didn't
talk about that, yep.
Yes. So that's probably why she emailed you, Bob. Thank you for reminding me, because I would have forgotten that we'd even talked about it. Okay. Page 21, Parks. Mr. Alan Nail, he's back there in the corner.
You need me up there, just take order.
You can come on up,
Center?
front and center, talking to the mic.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have just a couple of changes, at least from what I recalled. Lines 2210, take 2,200 there, or 2,500, excuse me.
Take 2,500 out,
Yep.
make it 22,500.
And line 3610, cut 5 from there. Anything else that you recall, Alan?
Now, the only other area where I could see some flexibility would be in 2310, buildings, repair and maintenance, it's supplies. Looking at what we have foreseeable, I could see 1,000 to 1,500 being able to come out of there, and if we need to transfer around it, we will.
So
1,500 or
cut
1,000?
15,
Much.
1,500. Okay, thank you, Alan.
The only other thing I did want to offer up is, as you recall, when the governor first put out his first executive order, he felt an essential service for people to be able to get out
in green space and get some exercise and some fresh air and get rid of the willies a little bit from being inside. And I'm extraordinarily proud of the park staff because if you're going to have people in the parks, you have to have staff in the parks to try to keep it monitored, keep it clean. And their efforts really from that, whatever day it was in March, to right now in terms of the challenges of trying to keep people safe and the parks usable, I think has been really commendable. So I just wanted to give an attaboy, attagirl to the staff here. As always, I thank you folks for your service.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Alan's another one that this will be his last go-around on the budget thing, too.
Really?
You're
You can tell he's smiling.
It's like all things, if it was all fun, they wouldn't call it work, but it has been an honor and a privilege, and I've enjoyed over the last 15 years the opportunity to get to learn a little bit more about overall county government. I'll always treasure some of the relationships we've been able to develop, and just the outside of work, bopping into an office and, people, hey, how you doing? It's more about just the service. It's about people, and it's been an honor. I mean, I'm gonna miss a lot of people. I'll miss the verbal jousting with Bob in regard to particularly sports things.
He's going to miss one of the last 3 days of the last weekend.
Yeah. You were busy with the media yesterday. I was gonna get the ribbon.
I heard that,
in terms of
yes.
White Sox stuff. At any rate, as always, thank you folks.
Ellen,
Thank you.
can give us a
Now,
little
before he gets
update
out of there, just
on
a,
the trail that you're doing around
park scope
Bicentennial Park?
Yeah, it is. The trail is on hold because the Next Level Trails program is temporarily suspended.
Okay.
I've been able to get no insight officially or unofficially in terms of whether it will be reinstated or those revenues will be diverted to other COVID-related state shortfalls. But the preliminary engineering work is complete, and it starts with a plan. So it's not going to happen as fast as certainly we had planned. I've told the park board if they wish for me to do so, if it's reinstated, I'd be more than glad to write the grant as a volunteer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more thing before
we
you
did
go,
add,
Alan.
we added in there on well, no, it's not in the book.
It's not in the book.
Not in the book, but up on the screen there, Fund 4125. This is, what we've tried to do is get everything appropriated we can, especially the donation funds. Park donation fund had not been appropriated, and we have a little bit of money. And we've been paying everything out of this 3190 line, which is just, it used to be considered just miscellaneous expenditures. Well, it's really a service line, and mainly, and Alan can answer this, but I think most of what we pay out of there is birdseed, and which would be a supply. This is the birdseed fund, right?
Literally birdseed.
Literally.
It's money, most of that money is, I mean, it's unsolicited donations, but a lot of it is a result of our county naturalist programs. And that includes places like the Nature Center where there was one-way mirrors and, the viewing of the wild bird areas. And just like everybody else, the birds get hungry. And we never felt like you should be buying birdseed with property tax money, or taxpayers' money. So this is donated money for that specific purpose. But much like the battleground fence account, it makes sense that it should be appropriate at the beginning of the year, and that way it's available if you need it.
We got some in 2 and some in 3. Again, a little flexibility so they can transfer money around if there's some sort of service that needs to be done. So we put 5,000 there and 8,000 into the supply, which is basically what we've been spending for. I'm not sure that whole thing has been birdseed, but a good chunk of in 2019, the $7,800, most of that was birdseed.
There's some educational materials in there as well, in conjunction with Murray Cutler's programs.
And then also on page 67 is the battleground fence line, which is our standard placeholder for any repairs that might be needed on the fence.
Who do we use for that now? He passed away.
The gentleman who bought, it's Ike's, but they did a heck of a job on the one repair.
They did?
It was kind of pending, yeah. It was at the north end of the battlefield fence. Rest his soul, we wouldn't have known it wasn't Don Reddick that did it, so.
He worked for us for the Romney Sewer District, Ike's did.
Did he?
Yeah. So he did okay, huh?
Yeah, it was, that was great, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. All righty, moving on. Extension. I was trying to remember, how much did we say out of overtime? Page 22, John.
So I do have written down added 12,000 part-time and part-time.
Well, and then I had half question mark.
We didn't do very good on this one.
No. That one was, now I'm feeling like,
So bad.
oh, my notes weren't very good.
I didn't put any notes on this here, so.
Yeah, the only thing I have on overtime was what it was for, the cleaning of the extension office, and they eventually see that going away into the commissioner's
Right.
budget,
So
as well as the utilities
with,
possibly.
with them moving potentially this year, I'm looking at, it won't be until 21,
Okay.
22.
Oh.
So we really wouldn't have any potential savings in those two lines in 21 then. That was the question, that's why I think we put them as question marks.
Yep.
Because we weren't sure what the timeline looked like.
And she did eliminate a position as well.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, so with that being, that question being answered, then we'll leave those alone.
What was the eliminated position about?
They had eliminated with all the coordination of the activities at the fairgrounds going under Andy. They have eliminated Kathy's position out of the extension office. So, right, that's why they kept, that's why part-time was kept up, because they weren't sure where they were gonna come out, so she wanted to keep some there potentially if they needed some more help during.
Yeah, they've only spent 1,800.
Well, was that, do you remember, Jody? Did we talk about the, I know we talked about the part-time, she wanted to keep some in there.
Yeah.
And I know they didn't spend any of that during all the shutdown stuff. That was where a lot of that came from, Dave. Right.
I think we're probably gonna have to clarify with her.
Yeah, let's keep a mark there. We will find out. There wasn't anything else that I had note of.
Me either.
On, moving on down into fairgrounds. Did we have anything?
So, yes. Let me find my notes. There wasn't anything, any reductions. One thing to note for the coming year is the fire suppression system. The $4,000 yearly fee for maintenance and inspection was one thing that Andy wanted to make sure we were aware of. And he was doing some checking on that, on the exact number, but he was pretty sure it was around 4,000.
Are they looking it's gonna change, or why did he want us to be aware of that?
So I believe it's gonna be coming up, not this coming year, but in 2022. So we just need to be aware of it, that will be coming
And it's
up.
$4,400?
$4,000.
$4,000?
Mm-hmm.
So anticipating 2022, how is the budget structure being looked at for handling events and all that the new facility will be providing us? Will that go through fairgrounds budget? Revenue be reported? Will you setting up a separate deal?
The revenue will go into the general fund under the fairgrounds line like it has been in the past.
Okay. And then are you anticipating additional employees to handle event management or bookings and?
We are working on a job description for a marketing director, and we have slowly been putting the job description together to eventually get to Shirley. So we're thinking March, trying to see about bringing this person on. What we're looking at is marketing director. I don't want to speak for Andy. I do know we are looking at a marketing director or position for that part of it. Like I say, we're looking at mid-40s is what we're going compared to what CVB is doing for marketing directors, and that kind of range is what we're kind of thinking out. We have had some other job descriptions, so I'm just giving you a heads up, that's kind of the range we're looking there. As for, I think, my opinion, but then, like I say, I don't want to run Andy's facility and such, is they're looking at part-time, some weekend helpers. So somebody that's able to open doors, close doors, make sure stuff's clean, things like that on weekends, and go that direction, whether it's a retired person or something like that wants to earn some, an Allendale or something that wants to be around on campus or something, you know, and Sally can work Saturdays and work Sundays. I don't
You got this figured out, don't you?
Yeah, he's got it all.
I always throw Al on a road, so we're okay here, you know.
looking out for me.
So, I mean, until we know we're back to normal, I mean, you know, how do we really judge this? I mean, you know, every time we flip the light switches on, what utility is gonna cost, things like that. I mean, we have been talking to some of the nonprofits and simply saying, you're no longer getting it free. You're gonna at least cover our expenses. I think that's only fair. And we have to eventually figure out what our expenses are. You know, if it's gonna cost us so much every day to flip the switch, then we gotta figure that part out. And some of the nonprofits we've talked to have simply said, you know, if normal rent was supposedly $10,000 and our actual expense is $2,000, you're gonna pay us $2,000. In exchange, we're gonna give you a letter of in-kind for $8,000 donation. Somewhere like that. You know, I think that's only fair for the taxpayers and things like that to know what's happening out there. So, we're still hem-hawing around. We're still trying to get our prices exactly fixed on what rent is. We're working on that. I mean, we got some pretty good rough numbers. I mean, for example, like if you wanted to rent the entire east wing, I think the total figure was coming to like $2,000 for a day or something like that, depending. And we know there's going to be different levels. You know, if you're a livestock show and we're charging X, you're not going to show up. If you're coming in as a Caterpillar and you want a major show, we're going to charge Y. You're at nonprofit. I mean, so we have to figure these things out. We're going to corner Doug, and so when it's all said and done, right, we figured it out. If it's wrong, Doug did it. So we'll work it all out together.
So you mentioned like the marketing and the part-time person, that's in 22.
Theoretically, this is done by June to July 1st of next year.
So are those positions in the budget?
They're not in here right now.
They're not in it, no.
Because we didn't want to put it in there yet right now, because A, we want to make sure, I think we can understand by how much unappropriated funds may be there, things like that. We didn't want to put that extra pressure on the budget for next year, as of right now.
But you're planning to hire somebody.
Maybe we should. I guess
mean,
maybe we should go ahead.
How could we have the facility and not be ramped up to run it? That's
Well,
the whole point.
Right, and I know, like I said, we know we have groups ready to roll, but we just, to be honest with you, we dragged our feet a little bit because we knew everything was gonna be tight. and such like that. But yes, we gotta have a facility.
Yeah.
It needs to be running.
And then, so like, there's an event, and there's 1,000 chairs and tables have to be set up. Does the person, is the firm contracted to do that the renter then pays
Right.
directly?
Right.
So we're out of that business.
That's what
Excellent.
we're looking at. We're looking at, Andy's talked, not me. There's 2 different companies out there that do tables, chairs, this, that, and everything else. Let's say you're renting it, you come in, here's the 2 vendors.
Pick one,
You
go.
talk to them, they take care of tables, chairs, set up, this, that, and everything. We're basically opening the doors and we're gonna clean the facility. And let's say you need a caterer, and we're hoping we have a list of 5 to 6 caterers. Here's your list, you talk to them. So we're trying to make it at least manpower as possible on our side. But you, as a person renting, you're gonna talk to, say, Midwest Rental, you're gonna talk to the Outpost, you're gonna talk to them and go accordingly. So that's what we're aiming for. So hopefully, we don't need 10 people sitting there setting tables up, chairs down, this, that, and everything else, and doing that part.
Mhm.
So,
Well, just my personal opinion, if we're gonna have this $25 million facility, it needs to be run right from the beginning, and we can't half-ass the first events in there and get a bad name for ourselves. So I think we better be planning to have this thing staffed up and run right, so,
I just heard of a potential good name
yeah.
today of someone that might be an excellent marketing person. So,
But we need to think about this for our budget, I think.
Right.
I mean, we still have $500,000 to go, but.
You're helping us with the right direction, Roland.
overtime back in the executive building, he's like, come on.
Was Alan gonna pay us to work that job?
And David, are we working with the Visitors Bureau as well, and they're helping us a
We're
little
getting
bit?
together on
Yeah,
that. I mean, what we're doing.
yeah, still helping to lay a little bit of a foundation
We
right
got every
now.
one of their job descriptions, we've talked to some of their marketing people. They have the web pages nowadays, once we get everything up and going, to interlock everything on that end of it.
So when you're looking, okay, so if we're talking about a marketing director, mid-40s, and then we think about all the extra costs that go along with that, and then we're looking at part-time help, part-time range, what are you thinking? 20, 30,000, 40,000, what are we thinking? I mean, I'm just thinking because of.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, we look at $100,000.
What's going on with that?
Right.
I'm hoping we're using the thing every single day. I mean,
I'm sure you are,
Right,
yeah.
I mean, but I'm feeling very confident that basically about every weekend plus Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's gonna be something around Bellway going out there, what's going on.
But if it's gonna be that busy, we gotta have a staff on this thing
Right.
that's ready to roll.
Right.
Or we don't wanna be laying eggs the first year and a half, and the word get out that we don't know what we're doing. So I know you're thinking about it, but also revenue from it should offset, I would hope.
We definitely hope.
Yeah.
Right. And Bob was, when he was asking us those questions, he's like, you know, is Rorman coming back? I can't answer that. Sounds like the valve's not, from last I talked to Andy, but Rorman, is he still thinking about, we don't know on that part. I'm hoping we're busy enough, we don't need Rorman. But if he's there, I mean, he's got a beautiful lot, you got a beautiful area, you got beautiful things, he may really wanna come back or such like that, you know? So, but when Bob was asking, what are you guessing revenue, I'm like, pick a number. I mean, be conservative. I want to say, okay, with our first 6 months, that's the first 5 months, we're going to roll in $250,000 when it doesn't happen. So, I mean, if you want me to call Andy tonight, we can try and throw some numbers together that he's feeling comfortable with and such, but I mean, like I said, I just know you guys got another $500,000 to look at. And $1,000 here and $500 there ain't gonna get you.
But if we're kidding ourselves if we don't account for staffing that operation and staffing it well.
Okay.
I mean, I just,
Right, I'm gonna agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm just, I was hearing $3 to $4 million that had to be cut here and be cut there, and we keep pulling this and moving to lit, and we're moving this to move to there and everything else. I was like,
yeah.
because if you start the 1st of January, you got another $2 million of unappropriated funds. I think we're good enough that we can jump feet first in. But I was just trying to be cautious on that part of it.
Well, and I think if we look at new positions, maybe not the marketing director, but maybe the part-time position, it would not be for a full year as well, right? Because
That's basically 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
For next year, would be 6 months. The marketing person, hopefully we have at least 9 months.
And we've not included any expected increase in revenue in our budget currently,
Correct.
Correct.
which hopefully would cover any extra costs.
But that won't come till
Right.
22,
Well,
late 21.
Well, some would
Latter
come
half of
at
21.
last half,
Some
yeah.
Right,
So
but we need the
There's
market.
two pieces of that are obviously the unknowns, is how,
are we back to normal?
yeah, are we
That's
back
Right.
to
one.
reasonable level of normal? That's probably the biggie, and how quickly can we be really pushing
Right.
events through that facility after the fair is over?
Is Purdue, which we know Purdue's very interested in renting this facility. I mean, we've talked to Nick Benora and things like that, and Purdue's very interested because they're full on campus, you know? But yet they have events, they have things like that that they're very well looking at.
And
coming
they're
out
still
here.
bullish post-COVID?
Well, we just heard road school's already been canceled for next year virtually, and that's talking to March of next year. So, who knows
Gulp.
when they change.
Purdue hosts road school every year for
Oh,
thousands, and
it's
so.
canceled.
2,000 plus people come into it. Well, is that something that could eventually look out here? I don't know. But I mean, you know, they have to have X amount of rooms for breakout to do their classes and such. Do we have enough rooms when they, I mean, maybe when the Y's done and we're done, we might, but I don't know. I don't serve on that board, the master does. So, I mean, the social butterfly does. I mean, if you guys, I can tolerate Andy tonight, and we can get some rough numbers, if you want me to get some rough numbers, or if you wanna just, it's your wishes.
I think it would probably be helpful.
Yeah.
I think I can go to Shirley and say, okay, mid-40's gonna cost what, and you're gonna know what benefits are, blah, 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 and she'll tell before I get out that door, probably, or before I sit down with her next door, is what she'll do on that part of it. And we could look at potential part-time, so if you're doing a 10-hour Saturday and 10-hour Sunday at $12, $15 an hour, we can figure those numbers out. So, if anybody wanna learn how to ride the Zamboni, hey, we got a new Zamboni in here lined up, so, you know.
If I've got a convention of 5,000 people and I want to come set up whatever it is, airplanes in there and have this, the kind of things that you all were talking about when we considered doing this project, and I'm flying in from St. Louis and I want to see this facility, I hope I'm not walking up to a makeshift office. I hope I'm walking up to an event company that has this beautiful facility that treats me or anybody that's doing this like a welcome guest, that has somebody rolling out the red carpet, that's walking them through, I don't see us doing that part-time.
I'm thinking the director's full-time.
Okay, but is all that in place that they're gonna have the time to dedicate? It just feels like we're gonna need more staff than what we currently have. You've talked about that, be it marketing or a part-time for the whatever. That I think we need to be very specific about right now. So when this thing's done and you cut the ribbon next fall or summer, that's go time. You don't let a $25 million asset sit there for a few
We're hoping we have
months.
stuff already lined up, ready to roll, so when the fair is
Okay.
over and they're out the door, we got the next customer
Okay.
that following week is what
Yeah.
we're hoping.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and that's why we need to have all those things in place the end of the first quarter of next year, so that we can be building.
Right.
So,
I'll talk to Andy tonight. We'll grab
That'd be
the
great,
numbers.
yeah.
We'll put some stuff together. and see what we-
On the flip side, I'm going to talk against myself, but if we got friendlies that have been with us before, those are great people to test this thing on too, before we make
Well,
too big a
and
splash.
we do know, we do know Tippecanoe, I'll use them as an example, is already interested, ready to book sometime there in August, because their annual meeting, they've outgrown any place around here. We do know, they're ready to say, when can we talk, this is when we're doing it, and you book us every year.
Great,
We already know that part's out there going on right now.
thank you. Yeah, it's great.
It's nice.
good.
It's nice.
Okay, we're past the time that we were supposed to.
Can we go
be.
back to extension a
Yes.
second?
Yep.
I got an email from Amber.
You did get an email. I sent her an email, so I'm glad you got some.
I know, you probably can't read that on the screen, that, yeah, that's it. Read the rest of it, Kathy. Yeah. Watching the budget hearings on YouTube, hopefully I can clarify the part-time line item. We usually use that money for our summer interns for the 4-H programs and fair. We only had one county intern this summer, where we usually have 3. We were able to get an intern from Purdue, and with the restrictions on the fair this year due to COVID, we only needed 1 county intern. We are currently using some of the part-time money for extra office help because we have a full-time person on maternity leave. Going forward, we expect the 3 county interns paid out of our part-time line item to return once we can have a normal fair. The extra $12,000 was added into part-time because while we're trying to make it work with 2 full-time people, we like the extra coverage to possibly hiring a part-time office person just in case. I think the workload from the eliminated positions should be able to be absorbed into the 2 full-time positions that remain. We wanted some coverage while we figure it out. With all the COVID shutdowns this year, it's been hard to gauge how this workload will truly be distributed. Hopefully this helps, and please let me know if you need to clarify anything else.
She did indicate to me in her email response that she would be okay with taking a couple thousand out of that part-time line.
So bring it.
So bring it down to 24,400.
Are you ready to shut her down, or?
Yeah, are we ready to
I think John is.
hit it? I think John's ready to keep going. Yeah, I think he's ready to roll on.
He wants to go all night.
He said he's going to take a little bit of a break, and he's coming back to keep right on rolling. We will start, so that, on a serious note, we will start with 911 in the morning, first thing.
Okay.
There's probably a spot under here you can curl up in a.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, sir.
So we'll start there in the morning,
Ooh, yes.
and then we'll take off back where we left off.
Do we have to do public comment or anything in the morning?
Bob Plantinga, do we need to do public comment first thing in the morning, or?
It probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so we'll open it up.
Well, that's what we did say in the agenda.
Yeah,
that we posted.
we'll open it up for any that might,
Oh, Friday is fine.
there would
Friday-
happen
Friday I
to be.
What time?
And then we'll go into 911 after that,
Okay.
okay? Are we clear?
Like 9
No, what was that again?
or 10?
So we're gonna have public comment right out of the gate, and then we'll do 911
booked from
immediately
11 to
after that,
2:30.
assuming that public comment's not going to take that much time.
Okay.
Friday. And Thursday I'm gone all day.
And do we need to be out of here at 1?
No,
For
we
free,
do not.
of course.
They move their thing till 4. And I would hope
Monday right now,
the good
everything-
Lord in heaven that we are done before 4
Or
o'clock.
we can adjourn at that point. then.
It's like,
We've covered a lot.
we covered.
By 4 tomorrow, John's gonna be out.
Okay.
Probably 12:30 tomorrow.
It was
Bob.
4:30 today.
John's gonna be like, I don't know what the whole rest of
Hey,
you guys.
hey, Kevin, where's
Sorry. Thank you.
Until Max comes and officially shuts it down, you're still live.
Because we had a
Talking
referendum.
about John.
What time did we say? Between 9 and 9?
So 8:30 tomorrow morning.
8:30?
Okay. And the sheriff
Just make sure I don't make any block that.
Do you want to wait till Max?
Hey, Paula.
That was surprised. I didn't even think of that.
Paula,
They get paid by the hour?
is there anything going on in here tonight?
I don't believe so. I'm gonna go double check, but if there is, I'll just bump it.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't know
But if there's no
if I could just leave my
election, we don't.
book and papers. Okay.
Okay.
I'd rather not have to carry all that. I'll take my
We
iPad.
have all that equipment. Yeah.
Oh, can we go back there and do it?
You got what? Oh, okay.
That's not what I thought he said.
I was like, what? Well, I knew you said that when we were out there last week.
For a big tournament on Gunnersville and Alabama, and then
Can I just leave my stuff
national championship next year.
Bob, are you gonna lock up here tonight? Or should we take our stuff?
Paula said we could leave it.
Oh, you
I'm
can't
taking
leave
my
it?
computer
Okay,
upstairs.
then we'll
I'm not
She,